Futures pointing to a slightly lower open coming up here as we get November non-farm payrolls just out, 210,000 versus 550,000 expected there. So a bit of a miss, to say the least, for that jobs number. Again, 210,000 on the month versus 550,000 expected for November payrolls. So we'll have a look at the overall market here, see how that's going to affect things. 4.2 on the unemployment rate versus 4.5%. So that actually moving in the right direction. But overall, that number a bit of a miss once again, coming off a nice rebound session yesterday for equities. We had a nice move back to positive territory, if you remember, on the session. We're going to have a look at a few names here moving in a negative direction this morning. DocuSign, one of those, coming off big time earnings miss. There's also DD moving to the downside after an initial pop, after they announced overnight they will go ahead and delist from the New York Stock Exchange and move to the Hong Kong listing. At the end of the day yesterday, had the Dow up 600, the S&P about 1.4%, the NASDAQ ended the day just shy of 1%. So interesting day setting up here as we head into the weekend. It is Friday, December 3rd, 2021. TraderTV.live starts now. There we go. A little bit of an improving situation here. We are getting a little bit of a positive move here on the futures following that jobs number. So 0.2 now for the S&P, the Dow 0.14, 0.5% for the NASDAQ already. Bottom end of the board there, 2.5% for crude oil, Bitcoin and Ethereum also to the upside. Yeah, less than expected on the payrolls number, but the market moving higher. Obviously, that means maybe tapering. Not going to be tapered quite as quickly. Is that even a word? Good morning, guys. It's Friday. Arun is in the building. Sean off both today and Monday. Great to have Arun as always. I mean, Arun, thoughts initially here? Positive move overall for the market.
You know, the crazy thing is, Brendan, I'm having a hard time getting the futures up because I'm having some software issues here. So I see the market taking off 10 points, but until we hit that 70, I've got 46.20 marked off. Until we get close to that, hopefully I can get the software issue resolved. Until we get close to that, I don't see myself making a decision. But I think for now, at least, just keep the bias positive, given how strong it's going. We still have resistance up here. So we'll see how it plays around that 4,600 mark. But for now, though, 46.20 would have to be the cutoff point for any ideas of a short.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean might have left a ghost in the PC over here, but we'll get it figured out. Arun's got the levels locked in. I think this is the 46.20 level he was talking about there in the ES. And you know, obviously there's some issues with labor participation rate because you did have you know, unemployment going down, and that's obviously a good sign. And then you're going to get disappointing non-farm payroll. Someone asked about the I guess it was the average hourly earnings, which came in up 0.25%. Year over year, almost 5%, so that still continues to climb. The story of the day, I mean, at least one of the stories of today is going to be that happened quickly, DD delisting. So it didn't last very long. Not a very successful IPO. DD is going to delist. It's not a guarantee. They're going to pursue a listing in Hong Kong, which, I mean, I don't see why it's not going to happen, but obviously nothing is in stone until it does happen. So that's a major story today. DocuSign earnings. Whew. Here's the issue. Like when valuations matter, they matter, and I think that's the case of what happened with DocuSign here because they guide poorly, and then just people seeing it's a rich valuation and getting absolutely clobbered today. On the other end of the spectrum, you're going to have Marvel, not the Marvel character, Captain Marvel, which is one of my favorite characters of all time. But anyways, Marvel booming today. Nvidia has issues with ARM, so there's a lot to talk about. Other Chinese stocks are going to be obviously under a little bit of pressure on the microscope after both the DD delisting and then the announcements from the SEC. So it should be a lot to get to. That pop in the futures, certainly a welcome sign. I think maybe it is an overreaction, if at least for me, because if you think about like the whole tapering, no tapering, or speeding up the tapering, those inflation pressures, that was a huge turnaround for the Fed. So to think that, okay, like one print here when it comes to employment, changing that direction. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but the market was looking to bounce after getting oversold a little bit, so maybe it's just a case of that.
Yeah, huge miss though on that number again. 210,000 guys versus 550 expected. I was just seeing in this country we actually beat quite handily 153,000 jobs created versus 37,500 expected. So nice number on this side of the border, but yeah, big miss for the U.S. Jobs number there. So much to get through this morning. Before we go any further, Miss V is right beside me. Good morning.
Good morning, team. Happy Trading Friday to you all. Please enjoy the show and your day. Smash the like button and let's get it started, Brandon.
Let's indeed get it started, guys. We have lots to discuss, as mentioned, as we head towards the open here. I mean, we can go to DD right off the bat here. We're right at session lows already for DD. I guess maybe the appropriate question here is, why would someone not want to sell this on this news today?
So clearly we're going a little devil's advocate here. And look, it's not to say that everybody has to dump their DD shares. Like you said, like if they're gonna get a listing in Hong Kong, it's not as if you wouldn't have the opportunity to settle potentially if you own DD shares, settle eventually and convert over to whatever the Hong Kong listing is. And is it an absolute guarantee that it is going to go down from now to whenever that listing would happen in the future? No, it's not necessarily a guarantee. If you believe in the company, I suppose there could be some reasons. I've seen in the past, and I'm not saying DD falls in this category, I've seen in the past where you had a stock that was getting delisted, not for these reasons, usually for like listing concerns, like a penny stock, that gets absolutely woodshedded like the days and weeks leading to it, and then it falls so incredibly far that by the time it lists on the pink sheets, it makes a rebound. But that's more like something dropping from like $1 and then a few sessions at like 25 cents gets delisted, and then it goes to like 40 or 50 on the OTC market. I don't know that that's a very, very different case from this, right? But like it wouldn't be, it's not completely out of the question, I suppose, that there's a level that this could fall to where it's like, okay, well, there's still a ride-sharing company that has some kind of a future and a value, and why would you not want to pick it up at a certain price? I'm not necessarily betting on that today. I'm looking squarely at the all-time low, that 685, which is the only level it's got left, and has been holding up pretty well today, right? So it broke $7, held up at like 689 in front of that. I mean, all-time low. It hasn't been listed for very long. Like, this has only been half a year, guys. So you get that bottom at 685. I think that gets taken out, could get pretty ugly. It might turn into a crowded trade, which is something we were discussing before the show, Brennan, where everybody is leaning on this to the short side. And if that happens, you might get some interesting pops. I actually thought there was in the midst of one right around 8 o'clock. Funny things happen at 8 o'clock, and I like to cover positions and scalp them off in front of 8, but it's been only a downward trend. Wish I had just shorted it when I sat down. Wish I had shorted it more in front of 750. Wish I had held the shorts I had in front of 750. But for now, you got 685 at the bottom. That breaks. Watch out below. There's a part of me that's more interested in trading Alibaba as like a sympathy type of play today, because I think there could be some serious action over there as well.
Yeah, and I would do the same. Maybe, like Neil mentioned, DD is going to have some quite the crowd today, but because that's where the news is. But other players in the same space, other Chinese companies, Baba, PDD, I think you're going to see some action there because people may start making some inferences and trying to figure out what may happen with those companies as well. Maybe some projections there. So definitely some secondary moves in other companies related to the Chinese space as well. So keep an eye on those names. Definitely Baba is going to be one of those names. Obviously PDD, I'm referring that you have, Baidu and some other players as well that are listed here in North America that you may want to take a look at for secondary plays.
Yeah, I remember we had that announcement yesterday as well from the SEC suggesting that foreign companies or foreign owned companies were going to have to declare if a government had even a partial ownership in the actual company. So this comes the day after we got that. Let's get our weekly, I guess. We haven't done this yet this week, I don't think. Our weekly ARC update, because she was busy this week. Buying up Square on Thursday, 281,406 to be exact, shares of Square. Roblox got added to as well on the long side. DNA, a little tiny stock, she started a position in with 1.2 million. And then it actually lists Docu down here. We're going to get to DocuSign obviously getting absolutely clobbered this morning. But her position, or her percent weighting in Docu, down to 1.5% from 2.3 in the main fund.
Yeah, like I suppose when the stock goes down 30%, the weighting is going to drop by 30%. So you don't have to trim any of it if you wanted to lower your weighting, because it's been done for you. At least Square. Okay, whoops, I'm supposed to say Block now. So Block, that ad, look, makes all the sense in the world to me. I think if you're looking between PayPal and I'm just gonna say Square most of the time. You guys know what's up. I think if you're looking between those two, I think this is the one that actually has it's got some levels that look a little bit better. B, I just think their business is a little bit better valued, and buying it on that dip made some sense to me. I think today could be a potential continuation because you've actually held a pretty significant low, and then when I look in, let's zoom in on that 15-minute chart. When I look at what happened in the afternoon, that double top lower high, setting you up for like a pretty solid like 194 break. And I actually left some of what I had written down for some of the levels. And when I went back a couple days ago, yeah, that was that 194 floor. If you go back to the first, this was a 194 floor. That was a bit of a place for a bit of a rollover trade, and that's why it turned into that resistance. So I like that for a breakout at Square at $194 here for the day trade. And of course, as I'm saying this and going over it, Alibaba just broke the low of the day. Now I'm looking 120 on a retracement in Alibaba, but that stock only down 2.5% today. And it just feels to me like the way it went down when the SEC ruling came out, the way NEO traded, the way Alibaba traded, there was no bid, man. Like it was like the bid just evaporated. And even when they caught bounces, the bid evaporated again. So those are going to be a bit touchy. But I like Square through 194 today. Every now and then, just the timing of those crazy dip buys is a pretty solid signal. And when you get those wick bottoms like this, where you immediately erase them and then hold a higher low, you have the market at least trying to go with you on that employment data. So a lot of factors that certainly work out for you. And then part of it too is you look at some of the overall strength we had in that rebound in the market and then that pullback right at the end of the day. I like the fact that we never really broke the top end of the range on something like a Square. It held up at that high, and now it's trying to break back out. Do you have to scalp it to this 196 and then to 200? Sure. But 194 break for me on Square, that's on my radar. It doesn't really matter that Kathy Wood bought them, but I think Square over PayPal.
Yeah, and for me, Square is not doing a whole lot that I can work with. Let me just see if I can pull up that chart. It's a NASDAQ stock. I'm looking at Square, but I'm not really finding anything that I can play with here. Maybe that 188 take could be something that I can. Why is this not coming up? There we go. 188 might be the level to work with, but there's better charts out there. Specifically, when Neil mentioned Baba, I was like, okay, yeah, Baba at 119 could be something to definitely play with. But look at this, 188 might have to be the point to the short. Upside, 196 maybe, but I mean, there's so much resistance above that I'm not sure I want to take the risk on the Square long either. There's definitely other names, and we're just going to talk about it, Brendan.
Going to be interesting, though, when it comes to both PayPal and Square once again today. Pretty active here in the pre-market overall, though. Moving in the right direction, let's say. Michael Noss, chartered market technician, back with us from Trade Ideas for our weekly edition of some ideas. Michael, it's been a volatile week, to say the least, as we get more on the inflation front, more on the COVID front. I mean, we always want to be kind of prepared for both directions or both scenarios. The market obviously continuing to the upside, but also to the downside, and possibly maybe even some short ideas.
Yeah, everything I've looked at so far to date has all been long ideas, but you're right. We had a bit of a downtick this week. It happened, more abruptly with larger candles than normal. So that kind of got us a little bit defensive, I guess. So what I've done is I've gone through a lot of the things that our artificial intelligence that we has been looking at short. That I think could continue, if and when things are met. So we're going to start here with actually a chart of the SPY and a bit of a caveat, because you're right, a jobs report must have been good this morning. We're pushing up from here now. So what I've done is I've highlighted, and we're going to call it about $450 on the SPY. That's where we broke out kind of in that late summer area. So, August, September, as long as we're above that, I don't think there's really a course to go super bearish on the market right now. So you can just see I highlighted, right? That's where we bounced in the last 2 days. And then, again, pre-market, we're up a little bit more. So that's kind of my caveat, is that as long as the market's kind of holding above 450, I wouldn't be super interested on shorting too much in the market. We've seen these 5% pullbacks in the market all year, and they've always been met with buying so far, right? There'll obviously be a point sometime where that doesn't happen. But for now, as long as we're above that, take these with kind of a bit of a caution. But hey, we've been talking long the whole time. I have to have something for the short guys out there. So let's start with ASO. So this one, you can see the little arrow, that's the blue arrow that's above the chart. That's kind of where the AI was looking to enter. This was an RSI divergence. We've talked about those before on the long side. This is one on the short, breaking down this trend line support. So I'm looking at this at 42. Again, if the market's weak, then this one, I think under 42 could have some continuation lower. Yandex is the next one there. So YNDX. And, level here is about 72. I don't know what happened on that candle, 2 weeks back, but right after that is when the AI was looking to short. And it's got this, prior support kind of area, just like I drew on the S&P 500, this on Yandex, and that's sitting around 72. So under 72, I think we're okay here. Over 72, that's when, you'd have to exit, and maybe it's going to bounce there. Next is going to be NIU. So this is kind of just a continuation play. This is another Chinese stock, and with the DDD listing, say that 5 times fast, and all of that's going on there. On the Chinese side, I definitely want to be a little bit more cautious. So we had a sell there on that big gap down on earnings, and then it's just kind of been chopping sideways ever since. So if we break down under 20, I think that might be some continuation on NIU. So next here is PNW, which is just a power generator. So this one, again, you can see the sell was all the way back, again, on that gap down. But ever since that, we've been putting in this flag pattern. So again, if the market turns, and if this turns lower, it's about $64 that I am looking at there. Next one is COLB. This one's had some strong support around the $32 area, some sort of Colombian bank, I believe. So this one's a pretty clear support resistance play. If we break down under this $32 support, then that's when I would look shorter. And then, above that, that's when we're good on for a bounce play, if anyone wants to look at it like that. And last but not least is CVLT. So you can see a big gap down there with a monster red candle. And then we've kind of been trading, other than that one little push up, we've been trading inside of that candle, putting in these higher lows. So around $62 a share. If that breaks that higher low pattern of, bouncing at higher lows, that's when I think you could take a look at a short, target the low of that move. And then if that breaks, possibly below that.
Yeah, interesting look here right across the board. And again, we're not, suggesting people should just, run out and punch short into any of these, but being prepared is the name of the game here, and having ideas both directions depending on what the overall market is going to do. Great stuff as always. Michael Noss, chartered market technician with Trade Ideas. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And preparation is the key, guys, especially on a longer term basis, but even on an intraday basis. We do this every single morning and look at both directions, both to the long side and to the short side, depending on what the catalyst is overall and depending on how the day is setting up. Right now, a little bit positive.
It is looking positive. It's a yo-yo market, kind of like the temperature around here, because I was just telling Arun, it is either entirely freezing here and it's too cold and I have to have a sweater on, or it's like it's too hot and I want to have short sleeves on. So I've already made that change. I don't know what's going on with the Fed next to me, but it's always that case. This market, it's a yo-yo. I wish I was already short Alibaba, already broken this 119 area to the downside. Looks like it's going to be rolling over, but. To your point, to talk about the yo-yo there, Arun, I don't know, I don't know if you're changing your thoughts, but it feels just like the afternoon yesterday because the market popped up, the ES got to 46, and then we just reversed back. The NASDAQ is it bumps up 100 points, comes back 50 points already. It just feels like sort of the same thing. Now, obviously, I know for myself, my focus is going to be squarely on these Chinese names. I mean, like, DD, Alibaba. I'm looking at DWAC, by the way, too, because it was so weak yesterday. I kind of feel like there's going to be some short opportunities there. And then some of these small caps. But when it comes to the big names, I was looking at Square. These futures still feel like it could be a more of a back and forth kind of day.
Yeah, before I mentioned that, I looked up and Steve in the chat's like, Rune, you can smile, it's okay. No, I've got software issues. This is going to cost me money. But while we're talking about the futures, though, 45.70 is where I'm thinking we need to break to the downside before I would consider. Like, we're in an area where range trading is very likely, meaning we're going to be bouncing around up and down. It could be a volatile range, but it's still going to be a range. So 46.20 would be the top end. I'm going to mark off 45.70 as the bottom. If we break through that, I can be more confident with taking the short. But for now, the upside momentum is there. Obviously, the number came out, pushed it a little bit higher through 4,600. Probably stops went off. We got 46.02 as the high. We can still carry forward through 40 or carry up through 4,600, but I think it's a matter of waiting to see how this plays out. Now, you can still potentially find a long somewhere close to 45.70, but I think you got to be aware that upside range, upside profit target is probably limited. Downside is definitely limited with the amount of support you're getting into the 50s. So it's going to be one of those quieter kind of trades, and that's what Neil's talking about. We had that in the afternoon yesterday, but it's a volatile range. There's a difference between range trading and a volatile range because essentially you could momentum trade inside the range if you were that type of trader. So that's the kind of market we're dealing with, and we saw this yesterday as well. Buy programs kicking in right off the open. Very interested to see how this plays out today as we're coming to the end of a volatile week. First volatile week we've had in a very long time. And we've had quite the sell and then a nice little rebound yesterday, a grind back to the buy side. Is today going to be one of those days where we kind of just grind, keep going? Or are we just going to lose it all and fall off again? So that's something to keep an eye on, but I am going to keep an eye on 46.20 and 45.70 as the levels there, Brendan.
All right, a few analyst moves for you this morning, guys. Big names on this board once again. There's Costco. We've been talking about it a couple times this week. Back to the upside again this morning on Raymond James, price target increase. Lululemon on here this morning. There's that Marvell. Yeah, huge move in the pre-market off earnings. Upstart with a nice move so far. To the downside, Asana, DocuSign, Beyond Meat, and Dollar General.
Yeah, it wasn't good for the discounters there because some overnight earnings as well. Unbelievable report. I know we're going to get to that one on the watch list, but Upstart, pretty impressive start to the day for it. Pun entirely intended as usual. And it's up 8%. The context always kind of stinks when you look at the daily chart for something like this. And it's been trying to make its bounce. Now, obviously, this is a pretty strong breakout that it's already put in through 180 in the pre-market. So at this point, that's like a 7 a.m. late volume type of thing. And it's not exactly churning through a ton of volume up here, but it's got some runway, right? Like if you talk about something which was breaking and then has some runway to its next resistance points, instead of like $1, $2, $3, $4 types of scalps when you were looking at the square or block chart, whichever one you want to call it, with an Upstart, you've got some certain room into that 20 level or 200 level to be certain. I think if it dips, you almost want to be looking back at like this, like 180 to 182 area. I think that could be defensible. These are extreme moves, but Upstart's going to make extreme moves. I think that's going to be a defensible area for you there as that previous consolidation at that bottom. So it'll be on the radar today, not the top of the list because there's just so much else to be looking at here today. DocuSign is one, although I don't see a great trade in DocuSign. We were saying this in the chat a bit earlier. People were saying other levels that you like in DocuSign for a dip buy. And the difference with CRM, why for a couple of days was a long for me with, the first day no success, and the second day it was off that 250. It had that 250 level on the daily chart. Like you had this in place still as it was gapping down and getting absolutely shellacked, right? With DocuSign, there's nothing there. Like there was nothing there from that same technical standpoint to make you just say, okay, yeah, pick up this bottom. Down 30% is way too much. Maybe it is down. Maybe that is down too much. But at the end of the day, it broke support well over 10% ago on DocuSign, which is pretty extreme. That's why CRM was sort of an easier call to want to buy the dip for a couple of days and find a trade for it. But I'm not really there yet for something like a DocuSign.
Going back to Upstart, though, I'm looking at the chart going, wow, bless you.
You catch that?
I'm looking to see, after we get through, everyone's ears okay after Neil sneezed into the mic. As we come down to 188, I think there might be some support here around that 188, 186. I'm willing to go long pretty much. I have this 182 marked off. It's going to be between 184 and 182. I'm keeping an eye on how it flows down through this 188. If there's a decent support range there that we can work with, then I think you can definitely go for the long there. And upside target is going to be about 195 or so. So there's a trade there but I'm going to wait for the open to kind of jump on board on that trade. And the other one I wanted to update you guys, I did take BABA short just underneath 119 with a stop just north of 120.
Oh, Rude's not waiting. I like it.
All right, let's continue along here. I mean, there's so many things to discuss, guys. We had NVIDIA on watch yesterday in the afternoon after that ruling. We can have a look at some of the, I mean, we'll talk about Marvell, obviously, but some of the chip makers pretty weak after this. FTC suing to block its $40 billion purchase of ARM over in the UK. Worth a note once again this morning to see what happens here.
Yeah, like I tend to think you might be able to buy this on any extra weakness it gets off that ruling. I don't think this is. We said this in the afternoon show yesterday. Obviously, it's the only place we could have said it. That this doesn't feel like too much of a surprise. This was always the deal of the. If you looked at the two between Xilinx, AMD, and then the ARM deal, NVIDIA, that was going to run into some more trouble because you had major clients of ARM. Whose designs are used by just about by a lot of the big boys. I mean, Google uses them. You had, I think it was Qualcomm even came out saying that they're against it, and it's just a concern that you're going to have less competition. It's been there from the beginning. It would have been. It's a great pickup for them because I think there's definitely some obvious synergies there. But when all of the main competitors are essentially using ARM designs, you can see why the regulators are going to have some issue with this. Now, maybe it doesn't close. They didn't get overly beaten up. This is why I don't think you saw a huge drop in NVIDIA stock, because this shouldn't have come as a gigantic surprise to anybody. Now, if there is a big pullback today, like for whatever reason, I'm looking right at this support down at like 310 and just saying I want to be jumping in front of it. If this turns the other way here, and then maybe there's a sentiment change, and it's like, okay, well, let's sell on that news. Okay, then I want to be picking up NVIDIA shares at 310, 311. I think it's more likely there'll be bigger moves in Square and Asana, or not Asana, we were just talking about Upstart, where you'll actually be able to get like a dip, because I think that's going to be more volatile here today. Now, obviously, Marvell is going to be the chip maker to trade. I saw AMD moving around a little bit. NVIDIA pretty quiet. I would need to see them sell this news to look for that opportunistic buying opportunity in front of 310. Otherwise, I think it's a little bit of a non-event here, but it does set you up for something. This does set you up for the surprise that this deal suddenly looks more likely that it can get through. And if you start seeing some chatter that, hey, this could have a chance to go through. I saw an analyst saying it's a 25% chance that this even goes through. So suddenly, if they do get this deal, it's a huge boon for them, as opposed to something, before, which was like expected, like that Xilinx AMD deal, like we said in our video months ago, like that was going to be more locked and loaded, despite the new tendency, to weigh in more heavily, the regulators, on any competition issues when it comes to mergers. That was one thing that should have been expected, and we talked about this with the new administration. So all deals are going to take longer. They're going to have more concerns. This was a prime example of that particular case.
Yeah, well, technically, NVIDIA, what can you do with it? It's so messy in terms of charts. You really can't go for a breakout trade or even a support base, because there's none. They're so stacked on top of each other. Apart from the one day that you got where it kind of just fell apart from 333 all the way down to 315 or so. Since that point, it's just been stuck inside a ton of volume here. We're working around 322. There's action all the way to 325, and then you start getting some previous support around 327, going all the way up to 334. Downside, what do you have? You have 315 going down to 310. It's not a chart that I can work with. Definitely not on the radar. I'm just going to push aside, regardless of how it's moving and what it's doing. I'm definitely going to be pushing it aside and see if we can't actually find something else. I'm actually keeping an eye on that Upstart move just to see how we trade. I'm very curious, and I'm definitely willing to play I'd rather look at that than NVIDIA.
Another little push higher on the futures here, Arun. Let's get a look at the overall market. Back towards that 4,600 you were speaking of earlier.
And this is perfectly fine. It's okay. This is what the market needs to do to digest the news. Maybe go up a little bit, fall back down, maybe go up after. That's all how the market works, and that's perfectly fine. But that does provide some insight into how much strength we still have left. So although we are at resistance and we're kind of failing this 4,600, it doesn't want to go down too far. So there's some strength left. So we're going to have to wait to see how this one actually is going to open, because I want to see if buy programs or sell programs kick in at the open. Because we saw it yesterday, it was aggressive. Just to point something out though, yesterday the market opened at the 50 DMA, which makes perfect sense as to why the move to the upside was aggressive. Right, it was sitting around 45.15, I believe, was the DMA. So it makes sense if you were able to find a long there somewhere. But now today we're nowhere near that. So are we going to get some volume from the bots? Are we going to get some program trading up near 4,600 as we close out the volatile week? That remains to be seen, but I am going to mark off that 46.20. I'm going to keep an eye on that 45.70, and I'm perfectly open to the idea of finding longs below 90 to try to play against this 4,600. So you have the two edges, you have the top, you have the bottom, but the way it's trading allows for you to look for potential trades in the middle to trade against one of the edges, meaning I'm looking for, if say I go for the long, I'm looking for that 46.20 to get taken out. So that's a delicate balance. Obviously, if I make a move, I'll let you guys know at some point. But for now, I'm looking to see how we trade around these 45.90s, around these 45.85s, and maybe wait until the open. We got half an hour left. I'd rather wait until the open before I make a move. But if we get that support, I may have to go for the long and try to trade against this 46.20 and see if we can actually get that broken. Yeah,
30 minutes to go here. Let's jump into what else is moving around in the pre-market, guys. That is the link to the watch list if you are looking for it. Miss V will help you out in the chat if you want that. Again, this week brought to you by Manscaped. Check out manscaped.com for some great gift ideas. The QR code bottom end of the screen as we go through the watch list here this morning will also get you 20% off going forward. So check that out for the holidays. Let's talk about the big one here, DocuSign. Big move to the downside. I'm just eyeing Peloton out of the corner of my eye here on that upgrade, up 4% as well for Peloton. But big miss for the forecast ends up being a problem for Docu.
Yeah, like that's the issue, right? It's the high valuation, it's the guide. It's the guide is the big thing. You're going to have substantial growth, and it's not just growth. It's got to be substantial growth. It's got to be beating estimates, and you've got to be pushing forward that guidance, and it's got to satisfy. Because in this market, I mean, this is what we get. Like I thought CRM went twice as far as I would have expected on that report. So I can't say that this is surprising. Of course, 33% is surprising. So I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, but you know that's what we're looking at here. And this was what I was getting at with the difference between the CRM coming in today and DocuSign. Like you're blown past 180. Like now you're $24 away. Give me a break. It was still a falling sword. Could have come in and just simply short this. Of course, I'm looking at the Chinese names and should already be in BABA like Arun is. And then what do you say to yourself? Like a 150? Like that's, I don't know. Like this was a decent cluster there, but not even that much in terms of technical support because it ran so hard. Like you're now talking about the COVID gains. Your 2020 big sharp move to the upside. You had one deep pullback into 130. So I don't know where support would be outside of a 150 level. I think maybe there's going to be a chance it catches a bid and there's a good long to be had. But I'd rather just allow it to try to get flushed out on its own and then try to make a bottom that maybe traps people at the low of the day. Like that 150 level would be an example of that. Otherwise, I'm not trying to catch this one as a falling sword. I think there's always the chance it gives you that pop and rollover trade, but that felt a lot more likely at a 158 than it did down now breaking the low here at 156. And worth noting, like with BABA breaking that low of the day, DD holding up above $7. So DD has stopped going down and BABA's making fresh lows. And that was something that we saw with the SEC announcement yesterday. It was NEO and BABA already moving down and DD wasn't really doing a heck of a lot. So I think that's why you can look at some of the other Chinese names today for weakness. DocuSign, I'll revisit at 150, or if we can fail to get above 162 on a pop, that's a shortable level. That and that alone, I suppose.
Yes. I'm not going to wait as far as Neil wants to wait, which is a flush low. But I'm waiting to see how we trade below these pre-market lows. 157, what is it, 50, this gap is so big, we don't have the pre-market on this. What is it, 157.50 roughly. You're not going to see it on the screen, but it's there. 157.50 is roughly the pre-market low, and we just took it out. We're sitting at 157 even. What I want to see is how can you withstand any buying that comes through? So if we go back up towards 157.50, 158, is there more selling that comes in? If the answer to that is yes, then I want to be short. If the answer to that is no, then maybe the reversal play, the one long through 162 is the way to go. So in a way, I am looking for a flush to the bottom, and at the same time, I'm open to the idea that if there's resistance as we come back up through that flush, going for the short on the move back up is still on the table. It's just a matter of which way are we going to go off the open, and that seems to be the way we're looking. On the futures, we're waiting to see how we're going to go off the open. BABA, again, I'm in the money, but I'm not too comfortable because a lot of the times you see these big moves to the downside get instantly reversed. So it's a matter of waiting to see how the programs open up. Some trades, yeah, you can be more comfortable with, but I think for now, though, as a future, it's just bounced from 90 to 98 now, 8 points in the last little bit. So quite aggressive moves already you're seeing, especially in the futures market after this number came out there, Brendan.
All right, lots of people just joining us. For those who missed it, DD Global, a big move down this morning, 9% right now. It has been lower. They've officially announced they will delist from the New York Stock Exchange and pursue a listing over in Hong Kong. So the initial move, interestingly enough, was actually higher when this first came out. But all-time lows, guys, right here, 680. For 680 area, I guess it is, on that spike down over on the daily chart. But it's hard not to look at this in front of that all-time low area.
I think there might be just a lot of bids that are sticking in front of it for the scalp trade. And I feel like it's going to be crowded. That's why BABA could be a little bit better today because there's just so many eyeballs and big levels that are forming. And when I say big levels, it's probably more along the lines of big orders that are just throwing some shares around here. So that the notion of tens or hundreds of thousands of shares long in front of a 685 that are going to turn around and scalp out in front of a 25 level, in front of a 50. That's a little of what I was seeing at 750 down to 720, 725, right? Like that's probably the only excuse for why you'd ever cover a short like that in that particular area. Obviously, you have some of these dark pool wicks that don't matter. Look, I like that 750 level if it comes back again. Even that same level that it held up at 720, it just feels like these moves are getting tighter and tighter because of the ample liquidity there. If it breaks the low, I had 685 as the all-time low. I'll double check that because usually Brendan's more correct than I am. But that's got to be a break that you almost want to have. You'll be 10% by then, so short sell restricted is going to be coming into play. If it pops, yeah, $7.50, $8, those are big levels. As to why it gapped up in the first place overnight, the only thing I can say is there was that original speculation when they said they were going to delist that possibly it could be a going private delisting and it just wouldn't be listed anywhere and they'd give you the IPO price, which obviously is not going to be happening in this case because they're going to pursue a listing in Hong Kong. So as for the reasons why it could get back to like 830, 850, someone would really have to believe in the company long term. So we'll be looking at DD, but I think there's going to be a trade that's better on BABA, which is popping back up here. I like 120 to wait for, and then we're back at 119, and I'm trying to be a little bit patient here, but we're getting closer to the open, and I do feel like I want this short, and the market coming up here might give the opportunity to get in. If DD breaks is 720, I think BABA might make that move to 120 to get me into the short.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with BABA. You can't trade them all because they're all going to be hectic, especially at the open. So DD, given that we're having a hard time getting shorts on DD, I believe there were free shorts that are now tapped out, so now we got to pay for them. I'm not going to bother even trying to chase this or try to get involved. If there's too much interest in this name, which makes sense, that's the why. But there's going to be other moves in other Chinese names, like I mentioned off the top there. I'm in BABA. I'm keeping a very close eye on it. This could get ugly, against me off the open if some buy programs kick in and decide to go long. So it's just a matter of waiting to see and keeping a very close eye on how the order flow is as we get closer and closer to the open. We're about 20 minutes out now. If there's an imbalance on BABA as well that gets larger, let's just quickly take a look at the imbalances. Let's see what the New York imbalances look like. At the moment, DD's got a sell side imbalance of 500,000 and BABA's got a 325,000 sell as well. So both sell side imbalances for the time being, but it's also 20 minutes away and this is a moving number. this can easily change. This can go positive. We can get a buy-side imbalance as well, so that can change things a little bit. But for now, there does look like there's sell-side interest on BABA going into the open.
Going to keep an eye on both of these because they are moving in that direction at the moment. Back to the upside, that is. Marvell Technology, semiconductor maker, big beat, huge move to the upside. Was still a loss, but smaller than expected for MRVL.
Data center numbers were fantastic for them. They're going to be, and one of the things that you would have heard talked about after the report was that they're going to be a player when it comes to the expanding of the multiverse long term. The bumps that happen on that, because ultimately that can take a long time to play out. So I don't know that it deserves quite this much. I think it's incredibly impressive. We talked about this name a few times as far as another potential growth name in the chip space. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. Now, in this particular environment, this does feel like too much of a move. If it extends to like 90 or so, I think there might be a shorting opportunity in Marvell, but you don't necessarily want to fight these things too hard. Now, yes, I do like a dip buy in NVIDIA if it moves outside of the range, and I would probably lean into, I was looking at AMD there, because it could have potentially had a breakout through 150, 250, or a defensive 150, both those things. Marvell, I almost like, if this isn't a rollover at the open here, and the market might have something to do with it, if this isn't the rollover, I'm staying away from an 87.50 break. It's almost like it just feels like a trap, right? Like it feels like a trap. It just feels like it's too far. It's a fantastic report, but I remember when this thing was barcoding at 50, and this is why a lot of times when you get these nice channels on a really solid growth stock that this had before, and you look at that previous high, right? Like when it goes volatile and then it starts barcoding off that previous high and tries to break, then finds that support level right at that previous high, that 56, 57. When it jams out of this level, it's been an absolute rocket ship since it did it, right? So when I see something like that, that's why I was talking about Amazon a couple of weeks ago, because you see similar patterns like this, and you're like, when it breaks, it's going to be a great one, and that's what it's done. And you're already, from that move, you're already looking at a 50% bounce, pretty much. So that feels like a little bit too much for me on Marvel to be chasing the long. There's the DD. DD just popped through 25 up to 730, so not to that 750 level, which does mean BABA I thought would be trailing a little bit more or coming up a little bit more. So I'm not in front of 120 just yet, but DD making a bit of a move to the upside.
Yeah, now Marvell, I was actually looking at, it doesn't show on our charts, but MRVL, it's right here. It was 82 is where I was looking at. It's right here. There's some data missing from our system here, but 82 is the marker. We're long. It's a long bias until 82, and I'm also not going to get involved until we break 82. But if we do break 82, then there could be a nice little trade there through the bottom. Go for the short and look for a $2 target close to 80. That's the only trade I've got on Marvell based on the way it's been trading in the pre-market or aftermarket since yesterday, and now we're kind of basing at around 86 to 87. There's some resistance coming in. So we'll keep a close eye on, I'm not going to keep a close eye on this, to be fair. I'm just going to put an alert system out and leave it alone. And if it goes through 82, then I'm going to actually go for the short. But for now, though, I'm keeping a close eye on BABA as it rallies back above 119. This is starting to get a little dicey off the open, or close. As we get closer to the open.
Still time.
Yeah, there is still time. DD's, no, that's it. Okay. I was looking at the amounts. Maybe the amounts has changed. No, BABA's still at 300,000. DD's at 589 on the sell side, and NEO is now in play in second place at 334,000 on the sell side.
All right, big move for some of the vaccine makers this morning, including Moderna, kind of leading the way here, although we are coming off slightly right now. 5% though in the pre-market, guys, for Moderna. The FDA setting up new guidelines for any company specifically targeting the Omicron variant of COVID-19 to kind of expedite the process of getting a possible booster pushed through. So here we go, 5%, as I said, for mRNA.
5% showing signs of coming back a little bit here. Oh, I just got shares of DD at 42. Hey, that's my favorite number, 42. And for that 50 level, that's completely random where I got it. Moderna here, obviously, it's been a great comeback for Moderna. If you look at that move bottom to top off that 210 level all the way up and almost chasing that 380, which was a previous sort of key level on a breakdown. And it's been an ugly retracement. And I did say that I favored the short trade on pops, and then yesterday put in that positive day on the break. And that sort of leads me to, okay, well, if I look at this breakout that happened to 380, the last portion of it, this was at bottom here at 295, right? So you get a bit of a wipeout, break that 95, get absolutely nowhere, and then hold the line at 300. You get the gap up, you get the positive news here, and it does set itself up for a bit of a green day. I think you got support down around that 310-ish area, which is oddly enough the same as NVIDIA, so I don't want to get those two things mixed up. And then I would have gone 320 break, but it already happened in the pre-market. So now that it's happened and sort of come back in here, it only went $2 or $3 from a 20 break. So I think there's a chance you retest 310. If that gets broken, I'd probably sit it out for a 300 level. So the DD in front of that 50, I got 42s. I want to cover some, like I said, I want to scalp that stock. I want to scalp it only in and out as much as possible. And then I'm looking 25, so those quarters and those evens, you want to make sure you're taking profit in front of those because it's going to be a crowded trade today. Moderna, again, it has to be a bit of a dip for me. I would have taken that break at 320 if it had held that level and consolidated there and then broke out at 930. Use that momentum to get you in and out, but that's already happened, so no point chasing it. Did not get into... I was on the offer on Alibaba. Did not get that fill.
I actually walked out of Alibaba. I walked away from Alibaba. It's getting a little too dicey in terms of volume, and I guess volume was expected. It's just the way it's trading. Now it's obviously falling, but I took away like a few cents in a winner. Not a fan. I don't really care at this point if it keeps going, but I want to see the open now. There's too much risk. Now I see the way it's trading. It's too much risk to hold on. Knowing that it wants to play like this going into the open. So we'll just wait it out a few minutes, and if it's still around these 119s after we open, then I'll come back in and trade on the short side. But for now, though, I think it's more about trying to sidestep some of these hits that could possibly come very quickly, especially in these names. So I'm walking away from that. And Moderna, man, I just don't like this stock, period. It's a no-go for me on Moderna. I'm not even going to put an analysis down on it. Why? I just have a very hard time reading it. The way it moves, I'm just not good at reading Moderna specifically. So I'm going to keep it off my list. I'm not putting it in. Every trade I've taken on Moderna has not worked out well because the way it moves around is just something I can't get a handle on. So away we go, Brendan, to the next stock.
Yeah, let's go to Asana, down big time as well for ASAN off of an earnings miss, just making session lows as we speak. Back into key levels here, though, for ASAN from over here. Not much of a bid yet, though, on Asana.
This is another very, very low volume. Not much. But sort of in a similar vein, CRM in some ways there. The 50 period, you do have the 200 period average in the $70 level that does hold, that does, at least for now, seem to be holding up. Is it's not really cratering down into that price range, even though it's still falling. So there is that there. There is this cluster as well in front of 70 even. I'd need to see it trade down there, catch a bit of a bid, and then I'll like it a heck of a lot better. I want to come over to DD because we can ring the register on a couple. Like I said, scalp in and out of this trade. It's nothing complicated here. This is the same level twice. It's 740. It's into that 720, 725 area where there were buyers that once they were broken, it flushed down to that all-time low. So I want to ring the register every single chance we get into this thing, get in and out as much as possible. Everyone and their mother is looking at trading this thing today, and I think the bias is going to be to the short side, which, no matter how much you like it or believe in it, if tons of day traders want to short the same stock, well, it just makes it way more risky if it breaks some of these levels, and you don't want to be. It's like musical chairs, man. Like you don't want to be caught holding the bag or last one left without a seat. You don't want to get that rug pull. In this case, it would be I guess pull to the upside when you're shorting. But you want to tread lightly here. I think the overall trend is going to be a good one if it does start falling, and if it breaks the low, it could get really, really ugly.
But with that said, that could open up the flip side of the trade. Pure psychology would dictate that everyone's on the short side. What would be the easiest way to get a run is to take out stops. Where would you think the stops would be? I was going to put it at 120. So I would say if you get above 120, we could accelerate hard and fast if everyone's trying to play the short side and probably trying to play sympathy moves, right? So keep an eye out for that. That could be something that could happen as well. I'm definitely looking at that, especially with the way it's trading. That's why I'm moving away. But now I'm also thinking flip side of this, which is to the long, to the buy side, not because of any technical reason, just pure psychology based on the flow of volume, especially through DD and how everyone's looking at BABA and these Chinese names.
Yeah, lots to consider here. Let's talk Longeveron, because everyone's favorite low float stock for the past couple of weeks actually has some news this morning, guys. FDA granting orphan designation to one of their drugs this morning. So a 40% run up here for LGVN. Again, 3 million share float. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it was 3.3 million share float on this.
Yeah, you know the drill when the float's that low. They get smaller, they get smaller. Just remember, this ain't a day one play. Longeveron's got some levels to work with, one of which is still in play at 26 here. If that goes, you can kind of see when we broke this a couple of days ago, it churned through 30 all the way up to 32. I think for anyone that's trying to hunt for the short, those are the levels you're waiting for on a potential breakout. Now, it has been on a huge downward trend into this positive news, which does gear it up for a possible secondary pop. That's the only reason I'm not short in front of this 26 level, right? Like, it's just, there's easier place to be had than risking a hell bent. If it halts twice to the upside, you guys kind of usually know the drill there. I'm always looking to find a top if it makes that kind of a level. So you could get through 30, 32, and I'd still like it if it halted a couple times going into it. But those are the levels I'm watching. And it's because of this wick high that it had here. Like, it was a hard rejection of that level right in the afternoon when it spiked up. You guys might remember us looking at that a few days ago. Actually, yeah, I think it was on the 30th there. But anyways, I don't really see much. If you like a 26 break, fair enough. I don't love a breakout chasing it this far, so you won't see me in that one. And to Arun's point, I agree 100%. I like 120 on Alibaba. I think if it doesn't hold that price, and there's going to be a short, you can always wait it out and let it go higher. So I'd get out if it broke that level. I'm in DD. I don't love it simultaneously, but at the same time, I've covered some of DD, so I would still take the Alibaba, 119 quarter or so if I could have got that, and then out at like a 120 level. But another one that I think is pretty interesting, Brendan. You're already in this one, Grab? Oh, I like that one today.
Day two for Grab, yeah. No bid on the way down here this morning. I was kind of waiting for a retest of 920 and then 950 above that to get into some levels from yesterday, but there's just no bid. It's running out of steam even as we speak to the downside a little bit as we get into some of these support areas from yesterday, but this is really just so I can keep it on my screen. Really tiny starter position. 890 is kind of the top end of the lower range here from yesterday, and then 920 after Grab had a bit of a disappointing debut yesterday.
So I mean, I'll be shorting the pop on Grab, but I think Brennan already went through the level, so there's not much of a need to double down on those. There's another one from yesterday's action, which was in the afternoon, that is on the watch list, and this is ARDX. It's got a nice looking double top here. It spiked in the afternoon. If you guys were following the show, it then made a high right after the market here at 183. So it did break, retook that high of the day, just barely retook that high of the day. And you've already got a double top made at that random price of 183. I think that's a great opportunity for potential breakout. It does also set you up for like a pop and roll off of that level, so you can play it in both directions, which I'd like to do. So ARDX is 100% on my radar at that 183 level. Breakout long, I'll probably short it first. If we get there, if I can get like 75 to 80 right at the open, pop up, just as long as it's on the way back down and rejecting that level, I'm going to like it. Another one here is we're racing through with about 7.5 minutes to go. DWAC, it's down 2%, which is not a heck of a lot. It's held this 44.50 level. And this is what we were talking about yesterday. This is 44.50, which was previous resistance, has held up as support. Now, we can call it 2 days because the pre-market had bounced off of this level. I think once that gets taken out, DWAC could be headed all the way back down to this like 38 to 40. It looks like the news has been tapering off a little bit here, and it's been a sell the news event. If it does pop, 48 from yesterday looks pretty good, 48 to 48.40 for a resistance point as well. So a couple of points of interest on DWAC. I was looking at fun for the trade, and it wasn't as volatile as I expected. If there's more movement to the downside, I think that volatility will be in DWAC today.
Yeah, okay. A couple names that I'm going to put out there. I'm looking at Apple, potential shorts below 162. For now, it's going to be on the buy side. It's at 164. So obviously the support point's $2 lower, but we do have resistance in this area. So in the event that it were to take out 162, I'd go for the short. What else do I have? I have Caterpillar as well, CAT. I've got CAT at 196, I believe. No. Yeah. Okay. So I got a trade on CAD that's kind of boxed in here. We either go short below 196 or we go for the long as we get to 200. So just those two names as we get closer and closer to the open. BOVA now 118.29, going closer and closer to the, I guess, the 118 level. The issue is, though, is that because this is the technically NYB is still closed, so the market's closed. So you have ARB, which is the other ECNs, ARB, BATS. Well, those ECNs are open to work with. So the spread on them is already 20 cents. The bid is at 20, the offer is at 40. So pre-market movement like this doesn't really dictate, it gives you kind of a sense of where the flow is, but it doesn't really dictate the complete open because remember, the volume comes in right at the open. And then buy programs or sell programs come in as well. So it all, you got to wait really until the open to figure out whether this move is going to hold well or not. Now, quickly, as we look at the imbalances, I've been looking at this, updating you guys as it goes through. BABA is still at 374, hasn't gotten that much bigger, but DD though has. It's at 618. It was just north of 700. Now it's at 618, and Ford also jumped in there on the buy side at 574. Everything else seems to be mostly a sell side, except for Ford at 570, and obviously Grab, the one that Brendan talked about at 388. That 388 buy side is the imbalance on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so when these imbalances come through, you will see spikes up. That's what just happened on Grab. It already spiked to that $9 level. I got my 75s in there for my starter position. And like Brendan gave the levels at 920, definitely an area of interest. DD, we tried scalping it one more time. And no, Neil, DD is for now on the New York Stock Exchange. Won't have to make that mistake too much longer. Went back in front of that 750. It broke, so I got out. Sort of to Arun's point, it's like once one of these levels break, because of this price action, I'm not holding on to it. I'm not averaging into it. I'm just getting it. And if I take more shares, I actually want it to be when I'm in the money on a short on a stock like this here today. Maybe it pops to $8 and we can fade that level. I'd be all over that. I think that'd be fantastic as well for a trading opportunity. And then the ARDX, we're still looking for a breakout at 183. Potential short in front of it. In addition to that, Longeveron, I think you want to be careful in front of that 26, which is a potential break. And one other name here, I think we talked about NVIDIA, we talked about Marvell, we didn't talk about AMD. Just because Sean's not here doesn't mean we can't talk about AMD. You have yesterday's high, this 152.50, which is set up for a decent level here for a potential break. A daily chart looks pretty ugly. Why is this still on DD? I flipped. Give me a break. There you go. Now, that's what it looks like on the 15-minute. You do have some room to give you a nice little scalp trade there. And then, of course, when you add a coil like this, it now sets up for this nice 150 range bottom, right? So, this 150 looks like an interesting dip buy opportunity for AMD as well. So all eyes on Grab, DD, Alibaba moving, Moderna as well, DWAC. Alibaba is just absolutely cratering. I mean, I came today, I said, I'm like, okay, I kind of prefer BABA to DD because I think DD might be overdone and too crowded, and then I find myself trading DD and not Alibaba, which is better right now. Arun.
Yeah, I mean, I was short BABA, but at the same time, this doesn't bug me because this can get very bad very quickly or very good very quickly, but then you're essentially rolling the dice on the open at this point. It's not worth it. I don't think it's worth it to take that kind of a dice roll on something like this going into the open, and now it's back to 118.60. So let's wait for the open. The trade is there. Something is there available on BABA, whether it's still a short around that 119 or a long above 120, but I don't think you need to take that shot just yet. You got to wait for your shot. Right now, the odds, I mean, you may get lucky, but the odds really aren't there for you to justify taking the risk. So I'm just going to wait it out, see if we can actually get a move. And I don't care which way. I just want to make a trade on this because I do think the volume is going to be there to actually accelerate whichever direction we go. That's one thing I want to look at. Valeria, what do you got for us?
Hey, Arun, we've got a super chat from Chaos. What are your thoughts on APSG stock SPAC?
All right. Imbalances. Sorry. Hold on, Valeria. I didn't even hear that. Can you type it out in our chat?
I missed this.
I was looking at our chat here. People wanted to see the imbalances. Here you go, guys. Ford, buy side 927, which can be discounted. One sell side, DD sell side. DD is actually getting smaller now. 568. So we fell by about 300,000, or not 330,000 or so. And more of it's getting paired. So people are coming on the opposing side. BABA's at 374, still the same. For the most part, that's it. There's not a whole lot there. Pfizer's at 152 and whatnot. So we'll just keep an eye on this. Valeria.
APSG.
APSG. Oh man, I haven't. Thoughts on?
I mean,
you're a merger guy.
No, it's a SPAC. APSG is a SPAC merger. It's not really moving. Like the general, I don't want to say gamble because that's a bad way to look at it. The general play on these is to use your $10 level as support. But I mean, it's been back and forth off of that price. Like if it was at $10.25, it's a weird thing to say. If it was higher, you'd be looking to like buy a dip in front of it. Brendo, quickly.
Yeah, Amex Global Business Travel going public, guys. $5.3 billion with Apollo SPAC.
Yeah, exactly. And it's at $10. There's all kinds of offers at that particular price. So it's got resistance here. It doesn't seem like it wants to move at all. I'm just going off the action that we see with 10 seconds to go, dropping the countdown. Ms. V is on the bell. Maroon is in the building. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ring it.
What are you going to do, Baba? Keep an eye on this. 118. Baba's at 118, 107. Still working. Looks like we're going to go to the. We're still waiting for this to open out.
Yeah, DT's not open, and it's right at that 750 level, kind of going back and forth. I am into that grab at 888 odd price. I'll give it to that 92. Baba's cratering, so I see Alibaba at 117. That's the one to be. I mean, forget this DT nonsense, man. I don't know why I trapped myself in this. It's actually bouncing. I like the short at $8, but it's still not open yet on DT. Looks like it just absolutely crushed there. So we open yet?
It looks like we are.
Yeah, it looks like we are.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now below that 750. Looks like 750 could be that resistance again. I'll try it in front of that level one more time.
Yeah, I'm not going to get. I want to get around 119. We're at 117.
Sorry, I'm talking DT.
Oh, you're talking about DT.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working DT. I'll work Baba here, and I'm not going to rush this. I've got my prices that I want. So if we're not going to get that, then we're not going to get that. One thing I am looking at though, we'll wait for Baba to see how we hold this 119 if we get to the 119 on the bounce. Boeing, I'm looking at Boeing as well. Boeing, it's kind of getting below this 199. I've got 190, what do I have, 196 marked off? Come on, charts, what is going on?
Oh my goodness, Moderna.
Okay, there you go.
Moderna absolutely cratered right into that 310 level. That was really quick. I mean, I thought this would be like, if it goes down to that price, it'd be like a slow grind down there, and there's just no stop, no churn. So thank goodness we didn't just sit there with a crazy bid, like a stink bid. We're actually waiting to see if it could hold this level. I want to see a consolidation before I jump into that. Moderna getting absolutely smoked, which is not exactly what I was expecting to happen off the open. ARDX, which is another one that we are watching. It did try to get up to that 175. I'll give you the minute chart here so it seems a little bit better. I wanted that pop and roll idea for ARDX, and then if it broke the top, a breakout to the long side, it's now retesting the low. So I still like the notion of shorting in front of that level before trying the long trade, but at least for now, it looks like ARDX is headed southbound. Grab is stabilizing at about $9. That's about like 12, 15 cents out of the money or so. We'll give that one some room. It can move a buck easily.
Yeah, and Baba's starting to bounce a little bit here. It got as low as 116.90. Now it's bouncing. It's at 118. Again, we want to see how the flow is as we bounce up. We need some resistance for us to maintain the short idea. There needs to be some sell side volume that comes in around this high 118, low 119 area. If we don't get that, then this may just kind of, keep going. But it does look like there's some volume coming in, so we might not even get to that point. We'll leave it alone. Let it trade. I'll keep an eye on LGVN. LGVN was one of those names where if it got above 26, at least I was looking at it, if it got above 26,
yeah.
I would definitely get involved.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked through that one in the chat for you guys. It's still in play because it just spiked up to 25.5. I mean, it might reject that level, but that looks clean on a break on the higher time frame. If you're looking at Square, or I guess, whatever you want to call it. You can call it Square, you can give them the new name. I'm going to go with Square because I keep screwing it up every other time. It's actually down at that 190 if it ever wants to load. So that was a bit of a flush at the open. If you go to the 15-minute here, there we go. This is a level that we kind of liked. If it can hold that higher low, that 188, it's trying to do so now. I still like the 194 break, but the bottom end of the range might have to do because the market's still looking relatively strong. So I'm going to see if I can't get a first look dip in front of that 188 on Square. Just pick those up at 189, basically even. DD goes in and out for me again. It's trying to settle down here, and it looks like it's finally making a level below that 750. So I got in and out like twice off of this level, and now I want to see this settle down a little bit. I'm not going to be chasing this, forget about it. It looks like Alibaba was definitely the one to short here. So Square long, still holding on to grab short, which is stabilizing. And that ARDX, someone was asking where I'm long. I'm long on a break of ARDX. 183 has to be the break. I want it on the momentum to the upside. I don't want to be catching a falling sword, which is exactly what Alibaba is.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at the futures. North of 4,600, and going strong, I guess, for the time being. It does look like we're taking that 4,600, opened up some stops, and here we go, keep going up. Buy-side momentum is there, but we're waiting to see if we can actually maintain this and continue this. Now, if we fall below 45.70, we'll break to the downside and we'll go for the short. If we maintain some strength through 45.90 on the way back down, then the longs are back on board. For now, though, I think it's too far away. I don't want to go long knowing that 46.20 is going to be a problem, but at the same time, I'm open to the idea. I just want better prices and better setups. So for now, we're going to back away as this comes back underneath 4,600. Man, BABA, 116.50 just gone. Okay, well, I $3 winner. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be getting that one there. One other name, UPSD. We were talking about 188 and change. We need to find some support there. It could be a nice little long there until 182, but I want some more stability. It's on the table, but I'm not fully convinced that it's ready for this just yet. So that's one name. LGVN, we were looking at 26, but you could also consider the idea that if it fails around this 25, which it does look like it wants to do.
That's what it's doing right now.
Yeah, if it wants to fail, it's too early for me to say, you know what, let's go for the short here, because what am I going to do? Go for the short at 24, put a 26 stop, and run into support at 22.5? I don't see the risk reward there, so I'm not going to bother pushing that. But I do want to see how we trade as we get down to 22s. I'm open to the idea of a long in the mid 22s with a 21 stop. I'm open to the idea of a short above 25 with a 26 stop, and then I'm open to the idea of taking either side on the break. So we'll just leave that alone. There's some trades that you're going to need to wait, and clearly BABA wasn't one of them, but apart from that, futures, okay, futures, now coming back through. After failing above 4,500, 4,600, we are now coming back to 45.90. This is not good, but this at the same time, this is what you want to try and avoid, right?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. I'm done.
With the futures coming down here, I just got ticked into that upstart. I like that 184 level, so that was going to be my first dig. I still have that square position, which is trying to hold that low. I mean, I just saw DD crater down to like 7, not even crater, down to 716, so that's also headed to the downside. So watch out below. It looks like the shorts are starting to come in here. One that I did want and don't have is DWAC. It's stabilized at 45 even. It's at 44.50 level. That's that hard bottom. I think if we can get a pop, there's still a chance to be able to short this higher. And Longeveron is also catching a bit of a bid. So at 26, it does feel like a fade to me now.
Damn, Baba, 115 now? Oh.
Yeah,
these are just falling off. You still have that?
I'm not in DD. I got in and out. So like the last short on DD was basically a flat trade for me.
Yeah, so okay. You try to avoid the mess that is the open sometimes, and then you just miss out on a move like this. Quite aggressive sell on, you know what? Maybe there's some still trades available on. I'm taking a quick look at PDD. I didn't look at this just yet. PDD, not as aggressive, but Baba is the big name. Apparently, everybody wants to trade. And let me take a quick look at Baidu as well. Baidu, what is Baidu doing? Baidu's down too, but the volume isn't there on Baidu. I think it's going to have to be Baba in terms of volume and action. So the way it's moving definitely provides an opportunity, even if you don't have the trade now, or even if you missed the trade like I did. There's got to be some point where there's a trade available. Just keep an eye on this. Keep it on a secondary chart somewhere off the screen, and then you can just actually, when it sets up at some point, I can also imagine there's going to be an imbalance, a big one on this at the end of the day, because given the way that we're opening, definitely should provide an opportunity for the close as well.
Yeah, and there goes Upstart right through that 182 mark. Looks like that's going to take the L for that one. And trying to hold up on Square is at 186. I never got into DWAC. That's a bit of a pain. That's a bit of a pain in the butt. I'm still on the offer there. That is not Upstart. That's FCell, which is, I'm also watching a couple other names. Fuel Cell through that $8 level, because you are seeing a flush, but it's not, like the overall market is holding up. We're at 16,000, but there's very specific, those high valuation names are getting absolutely crushed. Looks like we did finally get into DWAC, by the way. That's at this in front of this 46 mark. This is short to me until that 47, and then if it breaks that, I'm looking at the 48 level in particular. So this is put up or shut up for Square as well, because Square is at that 186. This is where you want to see it try to consolidate. If it can't do it, you can pretty much. And again, this is that low from yesterday's action. So it's put in that lower high. That's where we got first level. I want to see it bounce off that absolute bottom. If it can't do it, then we're just out of it, and we'll give up the ghost on Square. DD is approaching 7 even. 685 is, of course, your bottom. Baba is just falling like an absolute rock. I mean, Baba, 100% Baba was the play today. I'm embarrassed that I'm not in that one.
Well, I'm embarrassed I got out of it. But
it's gorgeous.
Even then, though, the logic at the time, I was like, you know what, that makes sense. But Oh, that's a missed opportunity there. Okay, well, what do we do? Okay, well, Boeing is another name that I had up and running. Boeing. Brendan, we'll go to you first.
Hey guys, Xilinx, big move here, 4%. We were talking about NVIDIA and ARM. Here's XLNX, trying to make day highs here on a decent volume spike.
What's happening? I mean, like, yeah, Xilinx, that makes sense to me. That deal's definitely happening. I'll do this one for Square, which just broke the low of the day. So buy the dip is not going to work out on that one. I was just looking at Fuel Cell, but another one, which is, look, it's only going one way. It's the wrong way. I was just looking at TUMZ because you guys were talking about it, but that's DocuSign. I mean, there wasn't even anything at 150 on this thing, right? Like, you're just still cratering. There's not much to see. Like, you want to see it pick up a bid. I think someone in the chat was talking about a 140 level as well. I'd love to be able to bottom pick this thing. I just kind of feel like you're grasping at straws at this particular point. I mean, Upstart's trying to make a little bit of a bounce here, so it feels a little bit better for that bottom pick as the NASDAQ is now through that 16 mark, 16,000 mark, but DocuSign not really showing too many signs of slowing down. Maybe it is a 140 level, and that's going to be it. Asana's making some moves. Oh, good look, Vader, talking about Home Depot, because that was a good trade at 411 yesterday. It's already broken through that level. If it had held this at the open, I think I would have been involved in it. But Home Depot's already sort of broken out and broken through that level big time and then bounced off at one time. So good look on Home Depot. If you took it for the break, fantastic, because it was a good resistance point.
Yeah, I'm not in a whole lot. And to be fair, the reason I'm not in a whole lot is I am having massive computer issues here. BABA at 112.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm not in too many trades. I don't want to put up too much risk. BABA was a nice trade, though. I'm still looking for, what was the one I wanted to talk about? Boeing? Boeing was at 197.50. I was looking at BA with a 196 stop. So I'm open to the idea of a long here as long as we kind of stabilize. There's some support here through 198 going down to 196, but as long as we stabilize, I'm okay with the potential
Neo's
long
dying.
here. What's that?
Neo's dying.
Oh, Neo's dying. A lot of names are going off here. I mean, at the same time, futures are as well coming off. We are into that 85 range. This makes the short idea a little bit more palatable, but at the same time, these aren't the prices for that short. Longs are still on the table, mid to low 80s. So as long as we stay above 80 or above 70, that could still be on board there, Brendan.
This IOBT guy, just be aware, 40,000 shares traded. It is halted, yes, but very, very lightly traded so far. 42,000 shares. Few people talking about IOBT, guys.
That's like,
no.
That is an absolute no fly zone. Like, that's way too few shares. It's not scalable. What are you going to be able to do with it? Not a heck of a lot. So two things, only in two positions right now. Upstart, long 185. It's now testing that 182.5 level. It did make a bit of bounce, so it's stabilizing and could be good for a re-entry to the long. DWAC is starting to work for me here. It's only about 60 cents in the money. I'm looking for that 44.50 bottom. I think I'll take some shares out in front of that, then look for a break of that low. And then Neo here, which is cratering, 32.5 bucks. I mean, that's one level that'll stand out on the daily chart, but it's just as ugly as Alibaba, Neo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in some ways, Baba's down 8%, but the chart is just as ugly to the downside. It looks like DD was too crowded a trade. The news had already come in. It was right to be in Alibaba to the short side. It was right to be in Neo to the short side. I'm just kind of wishing I had listened to myself with that, but I don't always do it. Moderna, which is the other name that we're watching on that vaccine news, couldn't find that bid at 310. Maybe that 300 level is going to be your next line in the sand, but as usual, Moderna just feels like it always wants to be a short till it's not. A RDX just continues to fall, so no breakout there. I'm actually canceling my offer in front of 183. I feel like if it makes a move more than 10%, I don't need to blindly be getting short into that. If you watch yesterday's show, you know that I got into a short on Virgin Galactic when I just sort of left it in at a price I liked, and then when news came out, I was in position before I could even react to it. So I never want that to happen to me on ARDX. So canceling that offer because it's drifted too far away.
One name I am actually looking at is not just Boeing as well. I'm trying to get NinjaTrader loaded here. I'm restarting the system. Baba, I'm looking at, apart from Baba, sorry, not Boeing is the one I was looking at. Boeing, remember, good long until 196. Another name I was looking at though, PayPal. PayPal. Right here, PayPal falling off here from 198 or 188 all the way down to 183. We are hitting some support here all the way down to 182 and change. So it's just a matter of, can we find some support? If we do, there could be a long, but again, it's aggressive. Not as aggressive as Baba, I guess, but not as much volume, I guess. But at the same time, quite the move on PayPal. That's one name to watch as well. Valeria?
Hey Rune, a few people talk about CYAD. It's up around 37%, guys. Do you have any thoughts on CYAD today?
So not to, I know you asked the room, but we were talking about this one pre-market a little bit in the chat. 520 to 525, that's your 200 period moving average, that's your daily resistance, that's your previous support, and it just checked up through there, like actually just put a bit of a failed break through that price range. So you spike up, if you fail this break and get back below $5, it becomes a reversal short for me. And if I can, yeah, we actually just got into that short when it got back below $5. Failed break through that 525 level. I think if it cannot hold a bit above that price, I think you've got a bit of a top wick situation. If it reclaims 520, then I know I got about 25 points worth of risk. And then this support level down here at 55, that's closer to like a 2-to-1 type of idea. Of course, this does work both ways. I think a lot of people look at that type of a short entry. So we get back above 525 and above these price levels on the daily chart, it has some serious breakout potential. So if you're bullish on it, I don't think necessarily it's over. That's a pretty good volume spike there. But you know, when I see a failed break through a level like that, wick up, slammed back down, that's always in a short entry for me. I think we were even talking about that in the chat a little bit earlier at that price range. Upside still trying to hold that bottom. And then, oh my goodness, DWAC looks like it's going to be heading back into that upside. I have 45.85 on DWAC. I'm looking for a place to add. I was just trying to get some shares at 46.30, unable to do so, but it's a short until it breaks that high, and even then I like it at 48 as well. And Daryl, we'll get to SoFi in a sec.
Alrighty, what do we got going on? I'm just looking at the futures here. So I'm limited in terms of symbols just because I don't want to overexpose myself with the risk here I'll take with the system being, my system being a little bit wacky here. Futures, I'm looking again, 45.70, we're still okay for a long. This can still set up on the long side. It's just aggressive to the downside. So we'll let it be, let it figure itself out, but the idea for a long is still on the table. Obviously, if we break 45.70, then I got to activate some shorts here. And probably what I'm going to do is if we get through 45.70, I'll let it bounce. If we get to 45.60 after that, I'll let it bounce back up. I'll start shorting around the 45.85 mark. But for now, though, we're going to leave that alone. BABA is bouncing back, was bouncing, let me rephrase that, was bouncing back. It made it all the way up to 113.5. Just north of that. Now we're back down to 112.5. So a nice little, I guess, recovery move. I don't know, just probably some profit taking off the massive winner that people could have had from the short, and a nice little bounce. Now we're kind of doing a secondary move. Keep in mind though, we bounced right off of, not right off of, we bounced right in front of that 110 area where we bounced off 111.41. But that's close. Fairly close. As we get closer and closer to that 110, you know it's going to get a little hot in terms of volume. People are going to want to step in either to play expecting some size at that area, or they're going to want to try and break this. So keep an eye on that. LGVN approaching support. Okay, we can start maybe consider looking for a move here. Between 2250 is where I prefer, but it is downside pressure for now. So keep an eye on this potential long as well. If we don't get a buy set up, then you got to go for the short, 21 short, or short below 21 with a 26 stop. Those are the options there. And UPSD, this is why you wait,
Still
right?
holding low, yeah.
Yeah, this is why you wait. 188 was roughly where we could have started going for the long. 182 is where I wanted to put the stop, but it looks like we're already trading below 182. We did trade below 182, so I think maybe at this
I had
point.
181 for that.
What's that?
I had a 181
Okay,
stop,
so
but
we
I mean,
had roughly the
that's
same area.
splitting hairs.
But this doesn't make me comfortable taking a long, so I may have to just move this off the list of stocks to trade with. So, Kat, let's just
Can we come here for a quick second?
Yeah, go for
Because
it.
I mean, like stabilizing now is DWAC. I kept trying to get shares above 46, and it's like a 30-cent, 40-cent spread. So I'm not going to be chasing that anymore. CYAD has to break that quarters, but SoFi just got absolutely woodshedded off the open. It's down at some interesting price levels because it just churned through this 1550 if you look at it on the daily chart, and it's trying to reclaim this level. Now you keep in mind the NASDAQ turned red, but it's a spec names, it's a high valuation type names. Those are the expensive names, for lack of a better term. Those are the ones that are getting beaten up. So those look really bad to the downside. SoFi needs to hold that 1550 level if it has a chance. Joseph McCarty, delisting is confirmed. It is a good time to short, but the reason why Alibaba, and thank you for the super chat there, the reason why Baba and Neo, and I'm kicking myself for, this is all my shorts in DD, and I have none in Alibaba. And even though I said Alibaba's the place to go, everybody is trying to short DD here today. That's why it's staying inside of this range. That's why 750 down to 20s and then 7 evens, that's been the trade. It has not broken that low. It can't seem to get past it, at least for now. I think it's a short in front of that 50 level, maybe even all the way up to 65, and then you're waiting for 685, the all-time low, to be broken. At that point, maybe you'll get a further capitulation. Brendan?
Big bounce off the lows here for Asana, guys. Big volume alert here, around 67, 66 and a half. Came down, tested new lows, and then immediately bounced. Still 25% for Asana.
You know what's funny is I was actually looking at Asana. I was like, there's one of the names that I was actually looking at. I'm like, oh, there could be a nice little short here. You know where I put the offer? Just underneath 74. We never got there. I had no chance. I was looking for the trade up here because the risk on this would have been huge because I would have had to put the stop north of 80. So I was risking about $8 or $6 or so. That's why I'm like, oh, I'll do 674. It was trading at like 72.50 at the time, pretty much right here. And no chance at this. Sometimes, guys, the risk for your trade may be too high that you actually have to walk away from. And Asana was one of those names where you're refusing to pay less than a certain price because the risk above that makes no sense. And it's gone. And that's, you know, I guess I'm not missing out I am missing out on cash, but at the same time, I'm not too bothered by that one just because it didn't make sense.
Yeah, DD, no, it's going to break that size. Prad just yelling out that DD had a 7 level and a big size break, but it took it out in an absolute heartbeat. Of course, it's so showing slow fly for me. Like, flipping is just so slow today, but it just took it out. 685 is your hard bottom on DD, and that's that all-time low, guys. So if it breaks that level, I think that's when the floodgates open up. That 720 is also turned into resistance. That was level we liked before. We're about to get stopped out on Upstart, so the 2 longs that I liked, neither one of those is going to be any good, and that's going to be the Upstart dip buy and the dip buy over there in Square, which didn't work out. It almost stopped at 181. I think it's a matter of time for that. But now my attention is back on DD. DWAC, I couldn't get more shares in on the upside, so it's that 44.50 level. That breaks. That's the way to get more on a DWAC when it breaks that key level at 44.50 and 685. DD, here we come.
Yeah, 685 on DD, and it looks like Baba taking another look at this. Oh, wow, okay. There could be another trade here on Baba. As we get closer and closer to those 110, keep an eye on this chart. Well, I guess the charts are useless at this point. Keep an eye on the level too, because the low is 111.41. We had a nice little bounce to 113 and change. Here we are now attacking these lows once again. Price point that would be of interest, 110. That's got to be the level where people would be looking for stops or just a round number, right? Neil, question for you: what would be the SSR level for Baba at this point? What do you think? We're at 8% right now, so another 2%.
What do we? Actually, I'm looking at DD right now. Unfortunately, it should be that 10%.
It should be roughly around 110, I think.
It should be around that one.
It should be around 110, so it might actually go SSR as soon as it gets to 110. Brendan, what's up?
A little ETF, guys, popping up. This is the China, let me grab the actual name here. Yang on the AMX. Directs on daily. FTSE China Bear 3 times. ETF here, just going crazy as expected. So 6% for YANG, guys.
So we're now 7 cents away from that low on DD here. It might just have to be that. I was definitely too soon on Square. You're right about that, Kyle. And DocuSign is at that 140 level. Now, the short on CYAD is not doing anything, so that can be, you can look at that kind of either way there. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing as well. And then, of course, DWAC is close to breaking that low. But here comes that 140. I was said if it just randomly 150 because 150 is a round number. If 140 is going to be something on the daily chart, which like there is a bit of a level here, I think it could get broken and still like you could break 140 and that could still be a level of support because it has room to go down a couple of dollars and still hold that technically speaking. DD on the other hand, it just feels like every time it comes down here, and I'm not saying you got to go long, but every single time it comes down to this price, it's managed to catch a little bit of a bounce. You're seeing it slow down in 685. I still like the breakdown, but if I see a monster bid at 685, which I don't see right now, I wouldn't mind scalping it for 5 to 10 cents at a time just to see if there's an opportunity there. And Alibaba, I don't even know what to say about Alibaba at this particular point. The other end of the coin, which I know you guys are all looking at, is NIO, which did get to that 32.50 area. I think that is the only level worth defending on NIO. It also will be, that's the 10% mark for NIO as well. So I know Bob is getting close to that SSR. I'm adding to DWAC. Sorry, I want to take some shares off in front of that 44.50 in DWAC, which is actually getting very close. But then I want to be adding to the DWAC short when it breaks that key level. As a matter of fact, I just got it, so you can finally ring your register on something there. But I'm adding if it goes further on DWAC. I'm going to try NEO long if it tries to bounce at 32.50, but I don't think I want to be sitting in that one too long there, but it's a good level on the daily chart, that 10% as well. The market is coming down hard. There could be a rubber band trade. I want to try to catch it on NEO.
Yeah, and as you're talking about that, I'm just watching the futures go, what? We knew this area was the area to work. Now 45.70 is gone, so idea for the shorts are still on deck here. Or in play, and that's going to be the focus. Again, 46.20 is going to be the top end. 45.40 is what I've got to the bottom. I'm not going to short. I'm not going to look for shorts at this point, but I need a bounce. I need the bounce. That's the only thing I can work with. I can't work. Maybe longs could be on the table here, but given the volume, there's no way a long is ready anytime soon. So it's just going to be waited out. Wait to see how this plays out. Because if you break 40, then I got to start looking for more trades. Maybe 70 might have to be the next level to work with. 75 probably. But for now, I'm going to wait for a bounce. I need a bounce to potentially get some shorts on the table here. 85 is where I'm going to be waiting just to control the risk a little bit because the stop is going to be north of 46.20. Brendan, what's up?
There was a comment there from the Fed's Bullard. Danger is we get too much inflation, and that's not the intent of the Fed's new framework. So seem to kick off that selling there.
Well, that's, yeah, there you go. That'll kind of do it, and that's why you see the NASDAQ crater down. Looks like that 140 looked pretty good on DocuSign. 32.50, at least for now, is the current low here on NIO. And if we can hold up and check up around 75s here for just even a little bit, I want to get into that position if we can grab it. That 140 is coming back in DocuSign. If it holds a second time, which it looks like it's trying to do, yeah, I'll take a quick look at that at 141 breaking back up there, as long as it holds that 140 this other time here. You risk about $1. I think if it does break, it's still a chance that level is valid, and then NEO couldn't hold 32.75, so I'm not into that one yet, but I'm still looking to catch a bit of a bottom on NIO. But DocuSign, great call there. I think it was actually a great look at that 140. Looks like that was the one. Potentially. I mean, it has to still hold.
What was I saying about Docu? I want to see how it trades around 157. We never even got a chance to look at that. Nope. We kind of took it out, and that was it. Well, 156 was probably your best bet. The stop on the risk on this was probably about, north of 170. Would probably be safe. And now here we are, 140. That would have been a huge short if anyone was stepping in on the bottom of the day or on the low of the day. But it's like you had a chance to get in pre-market, and if you didn't get in pre-market, you were not involved. That's simple as that. Okay, LGVN, what are you doing at 23? You bounced. Man, get lower. I want to play in the 2250s, but not at 23. The risk doesn't make sense at 23, so we're still waiting for LGVN to get above 26 or below 21. UPSD has broken that 180. It's
broken everything.
Yeah, so at this point, what do? You got to look for the other side of the trade. If there's a trade to be made here, UPSD, would it make sense to go for the short around 176? No, because then the risk would be too high, and then the downside probably gets you to 172 or whatnot. So I'd leave that alone. BABA bouncing off that 110.50 to 112. As we get closer and closer to 110, this thing will have more of these kind of moves because the volume is going to come back in. Futures bouncing off hard off that 45.55 area. Now we're at 45.66.
I'm glad you're showing that.
Why?
No, because I was just about to say, the future is bouncing off that level, and I'm going to, because it's the fastest way for me to do this here, just to quickly dirty show you the NASDAQ on this chart here, bouncing off this 158.50 area as well. I think simultaneously, that 141 holds up, 140 holds up so well, so good look, guys. I mean, I was looking randomly at 150, it came to 140 in DocuSign. Everyone's like, take a look at it. It bounces once, twice. I said if it bounces one more time, I want to take it through 141 on the way up if we can. That's what we did. I scalped some out here because this cluster at 144 did concern me at least a little bit, so I did take some profits on it. DD just, it did break the low of the day, but it got 1 cent, so I got in on that 85 break at 84, and then it's right back at 85. I don't want this to be a fail break. If it gets back at 690, too crowded of a trade for me. And NEO, I tried NEO in front of 32.50, so DocuSign, great try to get that bottom. NEO, tight stop, did not work out whatsoever. That is still in free fall a little bit here. I mean, the only reason I didn't flash out of DD there when it failed that break, because it went right down and then right back up, is that I got stopped out of NEO. I'm like, look, if that short is still working, then the all-time low on DD is probably worth a little bit of a hold. So I'll stick with that trade. I did get out of this DWAC, which look, I'm not ignoring the DWAC trade. I get it. Like it's working here. I'm actually going to cancel these offers because if it pops that far, I don't need it. But it either breaks 44.50 and gets interesting, or I can just leave this one on and understand that this is the news fading out and no longer being that important. The market story to the downside is what's really more important here. Neo cratering. No chance I even want to try to find a bid in that again. DocuSign is at least a little bit of a different story because it's down so much here today. And yeah, we'll see what happens with DT. It doesn't have the same momentum that you're seeing in some of these other names, obviously. That's because, like I said, it's a crowded trade, which means I will be scalping it. I'll be getting bids out in front of quarters and every 10 cents or so just to make sure we're taking profit. It's going to do up at least 100 million shares are going to churn over here today. And I think that's pretty obvious. And there's going to be buyers. There's going to be a lot of people covering shorts because they put on massive short positions today, whether they did it in the pre-market on volume or did it off of the open. There's going to be people that speculate they can flip this when it goes over to Hong Kong eventually. Whether or not you agree with that, it's still true that there'll be people that want to try to pick this up. 680 bid, when that gets broken, I want that volume to hopefully give me a fill in front of 70, and then I want to have one in front of 60s and 50s as well.
A couple names I've got here now. Snow. Nice little move off the open. Obviously, like the rest of the market, to the downside, but at the same time, this is getting to some areas that could be of interest here. 344 to the downside. We're trading at 348 and change, which gets us below 350 support. We're trading below 350 support, but there's still some support going back a couple of days here around this 345 area, which I want to clear. If we get that, we could have a nice little move. The target I would put on shorts below 344 is 330. So for now, just keep an eye on this. If we get below 344, shorts could be on the table here. If we obviously break above 362, then, I mean, the level's broken, but at the same time, I wouldn't go long given what we're getting in terms of resistance above that price point. I'm just looking for the idea of the going short below 344 on Snow. Another one I'm looking at, oh man, CRM, that would have been a good one. That could be a good one. Again, the trade is not ready yet. It's going to be south of 252. So if we can get below, and that's a key thing too, we need to get below and stay below without taking 350. There's still a lot of conditions attached to that. So get below, stay below, without taking 350. Now, if you get below and take out 350, then it's a wrap. That trade's gone. It's just a matter of stops and all this other stuff that's attached to it, at least the way I look at it anyways. But Snow, I think, is the one that probably is going to be the better of the setups. And futures taking a secondary move to the downside. BABA taking a secondary move to the downside, just broke 111, now going back towards its lows.
So crazy thing here, and I'm going to give the fist bump there because at least you're looking at BABA, and this, like we say, it's definitely the one. But it's that move. It's BABA breaking the low. It was when I got stopped, like literally when I got stopped out of the Neo long is exactly when like this break of the all-time low in DT happened. It's weird, but DT's not leading this thing. It's following. I got some 71s out. Like I said, I'm putting more bids in front of 60s and then 50s as well, be able to capture it. DWAC, believe it or not, actually broke that low. So I said I wouldn't, unless it gets more exciting. Well, it broke that 44.50 level, which was on the higher time frame. If you weren't watching the morning show, we went over some of these. If you go to your 15-minute chart or 20 minutes, it's going to look basically the same thing. Previous resistance at that 44.50. It had a bottom there yesterday. It had a pre-market low there today. That's why I was adding. I did get some out in front of it on the way down, thinking it could bounce and I'd reload in front of 46. That didn't happen. We churned right through the low of the day. I've added at that price instead of taking off. DocuSign, why do we scalp some out? Because when a stock is that weak, down 40% today, gets to that first cluster, able to take some profit there, able to take about a $3 winner, and then we're right back to that 140 level. So it's being put to the test again. It's looking like it wants to hold up again, but the conditions are entirely different. The market is falling a lot further and a lot faster. So do I want to jump back in front of this level? Absolutely not. If the market was stabilizing, sure. But there's no way you're going to hold true to a level like this. I'm just going to get out when 140 breaks and send you guys to Brendan for happening now.
Hey guys, yeah, busy morning, especially with all kinds of internet and connectivity issues. Here we go. Look at this board today. We are red. What a reversal that was. 0.6 to the downside for the S&P. The Dow 0.1 right now. The NASDAQ a full 1.2. Here in Toronto, 0.5% as well. Remember, we were up 0.8% in the pre-market there for the TSX. Crypto's downside as well for Bitcoin and Ethereum. At this point, there we go. We can actually switch over. Just wanted to mention Moderna coming back into aftermarket support where we basically closed, which is also $300 on the nose for Moderna. Big bounce there underway, or an attempt at a bounce anyways for mRNA. And this one, LGVN, didn't really give you much opportunity there. If you took the break of the highs, there was about $1, but it's super thin today for Longeveron, guys. Back over to you.
Like I wish that Longeveron had been in all systems go short for me at 26. It just wasn't. DocuSign just broke that 140, by the way, guys. So I mean that one, like I said, if it was different conditions in the market, you might want to be picking it up. People are asking about Roblox, so absolutely, why not? This is your daily on Roblox. Look, a lot of things are either running through or at least hopefully bouncing off of recent support, at least with Roblox case, because with the NASDAQ down like this and with obviously, the Fed rearing its ugly head again and scaring people when it comes to, faster taper, higher raising rate environment. Just keep in mind that the overall valuations of the market in general, across the board, even with some of the strongest names out there, like we're including things like Microsoft and Apple. Those are all at highs. A lot of these names. So when you have something like a Roblox, it's going to fall under pressure when you get this type of a dip down. Now, at least in this case, right, like with Roblox, you're seeing it for now hold above what is a key. There's your 111.50. There's your breakthrough that price. Here's your last couple of days worth of support. It's got a chance to put in a low in front of that level and give you a bit of a bounce, right? Instead of doing what NEO has just done, and like I said, I was involved in that trade. This doesn't want to pull back any further, so maybe I can go to the daily chart and show you guys. Instead of NEO here, which just churned right through that 32.50 level, like it just broke it. It stopped me out. DD's bouncing at 660, made a lower low. And then look what's happening in NEO. It's trying to make that bounce off of SSR territory, 10%. I'm not jumping into the long in this trade. I think there's probably at this point some higher quality names that you might want to try to bottom pick way too early on Square and way too early on Upstart, unfortunately for me. And as was rightfully pointed out in the chat to me, I'm not, I think I should be. I might be filled because I've been waiting for 105 on a firm. This is a firm here to jump back into some shares. I think look, if it breaks 100, this stock could still test the 200 period moving average, but you got to go shopping on some names that you like. A firm, certainly one of them. Think we should have the fill today in the long term. 660 is broken, so DD continues to fall. It should be, like, no matter what happens with DD, like no matter how far this one falls or how good the short looks, this trade should be Alibaba, right? Let's be honest about that. It should be Alibaba. It should probably be a NEO short. As a matter of fact, this is me at the open. Remember when you heard Arun say, I'm going to let this one settle itself out at the open, right?
Yep.
I didn't do that. Like it's really 2 times. 3 filled, but 2 separate trades to the short side where I didn't let it settle on DD. And if I let it settle, you see how it clusters, goes back and forth, and then it really drops, breaks through that previous 720 support area, and then finds resistance to that price. That's letting it settle down. That's either shorting it here through the quarters, shorting it back here through 20 with the quarters is either a tight stop out, or waiting for the bottom to break, which is what I had to end up doing because that's the only trade I could see was the all-time low break. Yes, it's going to work, but you can always do better here. It's had way too many short executions for DD not to be much, much better than it is. DWAC still heading to the downside, and it's pretty good. Austin asked me if I still held my long position in Oracle. I covered some Oracle in the long term. I feel like I did mention that one. Oracle, AMAT were a couple of names that I sold some on the way up. This is it's a long-term hold for me on the rest of it. So I know some of these tech names, if this will ever load for me, are starting to come back in. Yeah, Oracle, of course, is one of them. It's broken some, come on, let's go. It's broken some support, but you still have these gorgeous 85 levels in the 200 period, which finally loads up here, that I think you can play off of. And I wouldn't be a buyer in this name, at least until you're testing that. Like it's not the highest on the list, but it would be up there in terms of names that I like. I'm on the bid again in front of 650 on DD, so
Baba just took 110.
That's why we're getting that fill.
Yeah, Baba just out 110, just broke it. Volume was, it wasn't that crazy below 110. It was just a nice little swipe down, went about to 22 cents below 110, and now we're flirting a little bit. Everybody wants to see what volume looks like around that price. Makes perfect sense to me. Honestly, until this thing settles, there's no real trade there. You either play the momentum, which is be very quick to be in and out, or you got to wait for the settle. And the way I trade, though, I got to wait for it to settle in, given that I don't have an entry on Baba just yet. But one trade that I do want to talk about, though, I mentioned this off the top, CAT, 196 or 199. we flashed right through 196 by 20 cents and snapped right back up. So that gives me confidence in the idea of going long north of this high, well, preferably above 199, using the opposing side as a stop. So that's one. Snow is getting to that 344 area, is starting to give me more and more of a idea that the short is on the table. It's getting to, given the market actually, it makes more sense the way it's moving. So I think Snow is going to be one of those names I want to take, and obviously futures taken off. 40 is the breaker, right? If we break 40, then we got to look for other locations. We can't use that 20 anymore. Odds are I'm probably going to end up with a 65 or a 70 stop. I thought originally maybe 75 could work, but I think it may be 70 even. So we'll look for that short as well, just south of 40 on the futures, while I go ahead and get this computer mess sorted out.
There you go. And you guys have no idea the yeoman's work that's being put in by Arun. Like this guy was still trying to fix that PC when we went live, and he's still managing to get the ideas out to you guys. I can't go over Alibaba. I do have to go to DWAC. I mean, we're going to cover the trades that we're in. I said I wouldn't spend too much time on it. It did break that 44.50. I just got some out at 43.80 or so. Still heading to the downside, obviously. But I just wanted to make sure when you look here at this sort of 43 area where it did have some resistance, and then when you had the breakout. I guess after that pipe offering, when it went down and then the aftermarket went to the upside, it halted around that 43, reopened, and then had a 44 bottom, right? So right around that level, 43.95 to 44, that's where I wanted to take some shares out. It looks like it could be headed lower, and if it does, I don't really have a target. Like I think $40 is reasonable. I might consider a trailing stop. I just want to hold on to this short position as it works for me. DD making a bit of a bounce as we go to Brendan.
Ford, guys, we talked about it briefly there in the pre-market, moving higher. What a reversal on this one as well. Now 1.7 to the downside, topped out at 20.5. We're down to 19.5 for Ford. There was a note, it was out right at 10 o'clock there, the U.S. Trade Agency approving a $12,500 EV tax credit that should come into effect by 2027.
Giddy up. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, look, it's obviously going to be good news, but the overall market is going to rule today. And that's why, and the thing about Ford, and the only reason, and it's not to say, like Ford is just is probably in the same boat as GM in a lot of ways, but it's where it's come from, and that's why I liked GM recently, and I've been holding it for a while, but it's the only one I've added to recently because I just think it had yet to break out, whereas Ford has some room to pull back. And if you look at the names that have had the outsized momentum and the bigger gains, that's where you're going to see people start to sell, right? Like it's just one of those phenomenons that you're going to see in a market like this. And so Ford is threatening that $19 range, which I think is a pretty big and pretty key level when it does get there. Just sort of looking back at NIO, because I know some of you guys are watching this rather closely. And I just want to clarify something, because I've seen it back and forth in the chat. Like NIO is not like it's not like NIO was automatically delisting here, but you have to understand when the SEC came out yesterday, it put under threat just about every single name that you can think of, and that's why the downward pressure has been like we said in the pre-market. There just hasn't been a bid when it starts to fall. Now, at least right now, here's your double bottom here, and it went through that 32.50 area. Here's your double bottom, and here's it trying to get back up through that 32.75. So I was probably too early. When trying to catch a bottom, I said this yesterday, and I should be listening to myself, you have to be willing to miss the bottom to get the bottom. And what I mean by that is you have to be patient and wait for it, right? So you get in early, you have too tight of a stop, allow it to hold that level a couple of times, maybe even break back out. Then you could have 32.50, you could have 32.80 instead of me staring at NIO here as it bounces back into the upside. I'm going to hold on to the shorts that we have. I still think we're pretty solid with those. But one other name that we have not looked at today, which is my apologies, we said we would look at AMD. It churned right through that 150 level like a hot knife through butter. But guess what? We're still holding right around that support. I mean, if you look at the support recently, when it made its top end move, this is your 145. It did have some clusters here, a little bit weaker at 143 as well, but AMD starting to hold up around that 145 level. That looks pretty good for a bit of a dip buy. Eyeballs on DD here though, because without Alibaba making much of a move back to the upside, or with NIO making a very shallow move back to the upside, DD's actually pulled off of 650 and was all the way back up to 680. So that 685 all-time low, I think that's the only resistance point up to 7 worth re-entering into. But like I said, it's a crowded trade. Scalp out of it if you can, because it won't fall like the rock that you might expect it to.
Yeah, so a trade I stepped into, I was talking about snow below 344. I managed to actually get into it at 344.99 with the spread. Before we go to Brendan, I just want to show you what the stock looks like. It's 343.22 by 344.94, and this is why sometimes you don't cross the market and you just offer, because I'm in the money, but at the same time the spread is like $1 and change. So be very careful if you are trading snow, but I am on the short side with a 350 stop. Brendan?
Volume across the board seemingly a little bit light today, guys. There's one that just bounced here. Wanted to mention XPeng. Big volume candle came in there. 44 ends up being the bottom there, starting to break back to the upside for XPeng.
So I just got, there we go, I actually just got an AMD. We just talked about AMD, I was sort of showing it, but I didn't get the fill. I just retook 145.50. I just hopped on the bid instead of punching the long side through that break. So I got 145.43. DD's getting really close to that 685 level again. I think if it barcodes here and shows some resistance on the way down, I might try to add to that position. I don't think it's one that I have to average into deep. I don't think that's going to make a ton of sense. That LGVN, which, you know, this was a monstrous opportunity. This was probably a really big opportunity off of the open. If you just played it didn't break 26, the pop and fade. This is a real candle wick. This is it getting like 20 cents or 25 cents away from that 26 level and rejecting it. That's at least worth $2 for you right there. I was looking for breakout long. I think Arun was in the same boat as me, so you're not going to cash that short, but that's what it looks like when you get that failed breakout at the open, which is that rollover trade that I favor. I don't usually like both on a very thin name, which LGVN falls into, on like a tight range stock like an ARDX. That's the kind of one where I would play it in either direction, right? Like if that pop and roll, I'd have a bid to stop and go reverse long at 183. I'd sit on the offer in front of 183 as well and play it in both directions. And speaking of which, guess what stock is getting close to that same level? So I'm going to go back on the offer in front of 180. I'm still going to want to break out at 183. ARDX getting off the schneid, some volume picking up as well. Only long I got is that AMD off 145. Patience, the only dip buy that I was patient on today was AMD. Thank goodness for that at least, because if I was too early on all 5 of the ones I like, and Moderna was in there and Nvidia was in there, and you would have got absolutely burned, but ARDX should be the next fill in just a couple of seconds.
All right, man, snow is aggressive. Wow. To say the least. Okay, we're still in snow, just south of 345, but it is all over the place. So we're gonna let that one kind of figure itself out, leave it alone. Marvell still does not want to sit below this 82. I mean, I would be open to the idea of a short. I'm looking for the short, but they don't want to walk away from this 82, which means that I chose the right area to work with, which is 82. So clearly there's some buy-side support here around 82. If we can finally get through it, there might be a short. But for now, though, just be very, very careful. The support is there to hold up that level. Which is the other one? BABA now bouncing back to 110. Okay, I mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Where are you going to go? There's no longs available because the resistance is probably all the way up until 114 and change. So the shorts are still on the table. Even if this were to bounce into 112, you can still go actively short up to 114. So that's there. Future is bouncing right off these 40s. Okay, so again, another level that we just chose was the right one. Now I can say, you know what? If we break below 40, let's put a stop down. If we break above 70, let's put a long. So we're going to box this thing in. It's either going to be a long above 70 or a short below 40, 30-point range, nothing in the middle. That's the only way to do it at this point, because the way it's been trading, you don't want to step in too early. At the same time, you want to be right. You want to be precise with your decision and your level. So keep an eye on these 2 areas. We're open to the long above 70, like I said, and then shorts preferably, given the way the market's been moving. It's down what? NASDAQ's down 1.1% and ES is about 0.5%. So given the way things are moving, if we can get some downside movement, I think we can get some more acceleration, especially given the type of week we've had. It's been quite the week. It's been aggressive. It's been volatile. There's a lot of volume coming in across the board. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the futures, though. There's been a lot of volume, and it's a lot of aggression as well. So anytime you get a downside move, there's been a lot of, there tends to be a lot more volatility and whatnot. So just be aware, we are closing out the week after we've had multiple sessions that have been to the downside. Even though we had yesterday on the buy side, we did get a downside push right at the end as well. So there has been a volume chunks coming in, especially at the end, that have been sell side heavy.
You know what? That's a really, really good point. I'm kind of wishing we dwelled on that a little bit more, because sometimes on a day that feels like it's strong, that push at the end of the day, it's like a little bit of a hint, and then maybe the China thing pushes things over the hump, and then of course you get talk. I guess inflation fears again are going to be causing that market to move down. There were some good bottom pickings here, and sometimes, like I say, I always try to preach that allow a level to sometimes break, maybe trap some people, because when a key level's in there, like if people go short on level breaks to the downside, like DWAC today when it broke that multi-day low or that previous resistance to the support, that was a short through that price. But on a stock like AMD, people could have been stopping out at 145 or even initiating shorting the bottom, and you get that trap and you get nice little parabolic-ish type moves up here. Now when it gets to, always look for these inflection points, right? Like on the way down, each one of these massive falls down and these nice little tight clusters, that's usually where I want to be taking some profit out. So we quickly scalp about $1 there, and I'd look to rinse and repeat it. DocuSign, with the market trying to hold up here, is still right around that 140 level. So you're still getting this 141-ish top. 140 looks like it's holding again here. So I might jump back into this trade. And maybe if it settles down more and clusters a bit, I want to confirm that the market wants to try to head back up there. But DocuSign might not be done for its bounce. We can hit a key. I'll do this one because it's an AMD one. So I did take profit on AMD, so we'll hit a key for that one just so you guys can enjoy it. DD, I'm still in this short, although I have taken over half the position out. Like I said, scalp it only. I missed this rollover because I wanted to catch it on the way down, and it moved pretty quick back through that 680 level. It puts in a higher low here, so I don't necessarily, like I said, it's a crowded trade. I don't want to be jumping into it again at 685. I think I'd rather be taking profit between 60 and 75 if I can, and then if it pops through 85s, I can look to short VWAP closer to 7 even. So patience is the name of the game with that particular game. Someone's saying more. Stock hands saying more pain coming in NVIDIA. I haven't looked at NVIDIA in a bit. Of course, I'm in AMD, so I'm unlikely to want to jump into a long trade in NVIDIA, especially with the long in AMD and looking for something in DocuSign as well. But we're going to send you guys to Brendan for the small cap recap. There's movers there too.
Hey guys, yeah, overall volume a little bit low today, so it's one of those days that you could find yourself on the wrong side of things very, very quickly and had to kind of, dig yourself out a little bit. But a few opportunities did present themselves. This grab we were talking about right before the open here, I mentioned 920 and then 40 to 50 is kind of an area. I actually reversed this long, so my initial short doesn't work. I reversed this long just because of the way it went back through 9. The volume that came in on the buy side there was enormous, and it's still, you can see, someone's buying just unlimited amounts of shares at 9 or about 10 cents below 9. Just picking up whatever they can on the bid. So nice long up to 950. I did get back into the short as it broke back through 920. So we'll see what happens at 9. But again, someone's buying a lot of this stock around $9 right now. TOMZ, same thing. Got stopped out initially here, just too much too soon. But I got back in as it broke back through 2. Gave you a nice move down to 175. Volume running out of steam on TOMZ. And then it was hard not to be involved in DD this morning. 780 and 8 were kind of the areas I was eyeballing. If we did get a bigger move back into this, I would have had a lot more. But I actually only got one fill there. Still trying to make day lows. It probably goes lower, but it was hard not to watch DD. Guys.
So I don't want to dwell on these two names, but I'm just going to, every time you get a move to the downside, I want to remind people the kinds of things that are strong. One is going to be Pepsi, which is up like a 1%. I know we had the debate about Coke and Pepsi yesterday, and yes, I agree, Coke is a better drink. I don't drink pop myself. I try not to. Pepsi is a better company, in my humble opinion. I like the diversification, but I like the snacks. It's just, they have much bigger, they have more brands. I just think there's more to the stock there. And the other one is going to be Procter & Gamble on the consumer side. So, this is also up on the session if I can even get it to load. Nothing huge, but just notice where, on days like today, when you're getting the high valuation names, the growth names that are getting punished a little bit, where that strength has been coming in, and those names in your portfolio have a stabilizing effect. And I think sometimes it's not something we don't talk about necessarily enough. As quick as it comes up, It's come right back down in AMD. Whoa, that's a crazy wick on the daily chart. In AMD right back in, so we scalped some out. Now it's going to retest that 145 level. You want to see a higher low get put in. It can break a level like that 145, hold the dollar below it, and then retest. If it holds higher, I think it's a good re-entry point, and you found yourself a nice bottom. The other side of that coin, and Arun can probably speak much better to this because he's the futures guy around here. This is the only reason I haven't already loaded back into AMD. This isn't, it's hard for you guys can't see the whole bottom of the NASDAQ chart. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I mean, the NASDAQ is pushing right back towards that, that low, and I don't necessarily need to be adding back into it until I see a little bit more bounce. Let's get back above 1580, and if I can still get good prices on AMD, then I'll feel a little bit more confident about that reload. It's worked for me, and not a lot of bottom picks have today. So, DocuSign did, AMD did, Square, absolutely not. Upstart, absolutely not. So the shorts have been good. That's why you're seeing me hold on to the ones that I have. But I want to be very, very picky about jumping into more shares of something like an AMD, or even initiating again in DocuSign.
Yeah, okay. Marvell, that's what I was looking at. Remember, 82? We were down there just a bit. I was watching it trade. I'm like, okay, can we get something done? No, they're bouncing right off of Marvell, that 82 marker. And I guess we're not going to be doing anything with that just yet. We're going to wait a little bit more on Marvell. A name that, remember, I discounted this off the top. I'm like, there's nothing here. I don't know what to make of this chart. I'm not going to trade it. I'm not going to Square. Okay, 193 to 181. Insane move. What do you like?
Have a stop. That's all I can say.
That's the kind of move that you can blow up, get blown up on if you don't pay attention. But for now, though, we're just working our snow position. Snow's, I want to say in the money by $2 at the same time. I'm just going to show you guys what snow looks like. This is what it looks like. 420 by 4250 by 4317. Next to no liquidity, and it's done 1.6 million shares, so there's volume there. It's just very, very thin. So you see how it's trading. So being in the money doesn't mean a whole lot on this thing, because it's all about can you get out and how do you get out is the question. So I've got the read. We'll see if I'm targeting 330. That's where I'm going to start to make decisions on profit taking, but we'll see how this one plays out. We know how thin it is, and we know how aggressive it can get. But apart from snow, I am just looking at Marvell to the downside. And also, I'm keeping an eye on CAT. Remember, CAT bounced off that 196 area. It was either 196 short or a 199 long. Bounced right off that 196 and went right back into the range. So as long as it's in the range, I'm not going to be doing anything. And futures, as Neil was mentioning, NASDAQ was going back towards its lows for the day. Futures are getting closer and closer to those 45.40s as well. That's the marker that I was looking at, 45.40. If we get below there, there could be shorts on the table. If we get above 45.70, longs could be on the table. If we break either side, then you take the opposing trade. Simple. It's not that simple, but that's pretty much the way I'm looking at it as well. So 30-point range in the middle. As long as we take one side, I'll be active on that side. But for now, though, we're just going to have to wait it out. BABA, I mean, for anyone who has missed BABA, it's at 112 after bouncing off of 108.70. That's quite the bounce. But like I said, there's resistance all the way up to 114. So at any point, this can just start to fade out, and you can get another short on. Remember, last time we bounced from, let me zoom this chart up a little bit. We bounced from, what is this, 111.50. We bounced all the way up to 113, just north of 113.5. And then kind of did a secondary move. So it looks like around that 112.50 is going to be where majority of resistance is. If there is a short setup around those prices, that would have to be where it is. So we'll keep an eye on those prices. Maybe that's a secondary move, secondary price that I take a shot on BABA with. But for now, though, I think the primary objective is to protect myself against something going very, very wrong on snow, and see if I can grab a trade on Marvell as we get back below 82 for what, the third, fourth time. What I need again is I need them to get below 82, and then I want to be able to withstand any buying that comes back above, given the amount of support you're getting here. So it needs to be a sell down with a buyback. And then if we can withstand that, then the short. If not, we just walk away from it. That's all I've got. Marvell And Snow, I don't think I've got anything else.
Remember LGVN?
Oh yeah, LGVN.
It's come back. So the first time through, and I sort of said this, that there was a missed opportunity short on that failed break at the open at 26. Now, the 15-minute chart, if you pull up the higher time frame, or just look at yesterday, you'll have that 26 high, which I think is still in play for a breakout, right? The momentum is definitely there. The volume is there. But I regretted not getting the short. So I did put on half the size to the short side. I missed a chance to get some out here beneath 25 for the scalp trade. But I'm still going to stick some in just to see if I can get like anywhere from like 50 to 85 cents, somewhere in that range, the first out, and then VWAP it here at 24. So I am short in front of 26. This is a hard stop. Like it's not like if it breaks 26, I'm out. I am long. I still think it has the potential to break, but I missed the short there the first time. I didn't want to miss it the second time through. DD, along with that pushback in Alibaba, it looks like DD. Still trying to get back up. It's not really screaming to the upside here to that 685 all-time low that it had, but you are still seeing it grind back up towards that high. So, like I said, I'm not getting more shares of the short. I am going to get on the bid in front of the 660 if it does want to come down here again. There is a big buyer at 75 for now, holding it at these levels. Brendan?
Another one just popping up here. EQT Corporation, day highs on volume, guys. We just passed 1925 there. Getting back into some levels, though, on the daily chart. No significant headlines for this one, but a couple of positive notes from analysts. EQT trying to go higher.
Apple, too. Man, okay, I just noticed it because the chat put it up. And I was like, wait, I had a stop on this. Not a stop, an alert on this. Where did I have that alert? 162. I think you guys can rewind and check it. I had 162 marked off as the level of interest in the event that we actually were to get underneath and trade underneath. Where does it bounce? 162 takes out stops by about 20 cents and shoots back up 163.50. Now it's 163.79. Okay, so now I know that that's the area that I want to work with. I knew that before the market even opened. Can I find a trade is the question. Where does it make sense? It's got to make sense below 163 because look at what you're running into north of 165 or even north of 164. So if I'm going to take the risk, it's got to be something that makes sense. I'm still willing to use that 162. I know I'm going to hit some resistance at 164. So if I'm going to get in to control the risk on this trade, it's got to be south of 163. But then given the way it's trading, I also need to wait for it to kind of get down below 163 and find some support to buy, and then we go for the long. As I watch this, I just noticed that Snow is now breaking 340. Okay, now we're in a $5 winner for now. Again, it's Snow, so I say that with hesitation. So it's a $5 winner for the time being, and the futures are backing off this 43.70 or 55. Remember, 45.70 is the area. 45.70 is the area. 45.40 is the bottom. Let's see if we can actually trade through either range. Then there's a trade there. Brendan?
Another one on the volume scanner here, guys. Zillow back to the upside after a big move down over the past month or so. They actually increased their forecast aftermarket yesterday, increased their revenue forecast specifically after bailing on the real estate business. You can see that came out in the aftermarket, so nice move up. For Zillow, once again today, 10:30 on the dot. Let's get a check quickly on how things over in Europe are doing. There's 1 hour left in the day and the week for that matter. Miss V, what's up?
Hey Brandon, European markets are negative by this hour. Dassault Aviation trading in Paris is up around 8% after United Arab Emirates bought 80 of its Rafale F4 jets. Back to you.
Yeah, about 0.5% so far for the S&P. Back to the downside we go, guys.
So I'll ring the Reggie on some Longeveron here, as it did give me that 2480 fill, so was able to take some out. It failed again through the high of the day. I still like the break. We're above VWAP. As long as we hold this consolidation up here, I do like the reverse into the long side of the trade. Hasn't happened just yet. He didn't use the line. I'm going to use it because Snow. It is Snow. A little short the stock, but he will not turn informer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, then you're not old. I'm old. Arun is apparently not as old, and it's a Canadian.
No, but to be fair, he should be back on. Like, he should be somewhat back on mainstream just because he has a new song out. I think I talked to you about this.
Oh no, you did mention it.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know what it is.
He's got it with who's the Latin artist? He's got another song with a Latin artist, and they kind of redid Snow. I think they used Snow as a sample on the new track. So if you want to find out,
Canada.
just go find the name for me. I can't remember who the artist is, but it is a Latin reggaeton artist that has a new song with Snow. Pretty good song, I think. And I remember the original tracks. So to be fair, and this is just off topic, when you said Snow, the other song that just that comes to mind is It Wasn't Me.
Why? I
don't know.
Shaggy.
I know it is. It is Shaggy, but I feel like it's in the same time period.
I mean,
that's why it comes to mind.
That's not like. I mean, look, I'm not gonna get too mad at you, but like it should be like Nadine Sutherland, like Anything for You, because that's the other big hit he had. But that's fine. I get it. It's fine. I'm not gonna get too upset about it. We are still trading, so I want to get to ARDX, which I saw someone in the chat say $2 for a breakout on ARDX, and I was like, no, I like 183. And we were trading this one in the afternoon yesterday, and then it put in that post-market high at 183. You had a pre-market high at 183. I did short it in front of that level. I'm reversed into a long trade. There is a wall, and I say wall at 185. That I'll take more shares if it breaks 185. But I've already dipped into it a little bit here. But if it breaks 185, I'm taking some more shares here on ARDX. I did ring the Reggie on there. Where's my fill? Yeah, I got the fill there. Yeah, we go. So I got 185 as it's trying to churn through this level, looking like it's trying to break. I got the 15-minute up so you can get a better look at that high. It just rejected it. So, I mean, give me a break. It actually just held this. So I'll show you this. ARDX. It was a massive order that went down to about 50,000 shares from about like a few 100,000 shares at 185. That's one, you hit that level as it's going, anticipating it's going to break. It's down to about 50,000 shares, ends up holding. Usually when that happens, you're going to get a big dip down. It actually holds up a little bit here. So if this doesn't pull back after rejecting that 185 break, if this doesn't pull back to like 175, 180, then it is all systems go for that long. Looks like the shorts that we're holding on to might have been better, and that's why we're hanging on to, I'm not getting out of too much of that DD, still holding that DWAC, and Longeveron starting to work, but AMD, on the other hand, it was a good dip buy initially. It got you to that 146. It's now threatening that 144 level. It just eked past it and immediately tried to retrace, but it is not holding up well. The futures just broke the low, and once they get past, the NASDAQ is very close to that low of the day. Once it breaks it, yeah, there it is. It just broke the low of the day. That's me getting out of AMD there. So looks like, once again, the long's not really working out. You can get a bit of a winner. It doesn't want to extend. You just hang on to your shorts onto a day like today. That's why I'm not really covering or getting flat on the DD or the DWAC. I mean, Longeveron, I guess, is a bit of a different story because that's like your thin, crazy trading running stock, which probably doesn't give two darns about what the market is doing. So it does fall into a bit of a different category. I do still have to watch ARDX, although the way this played out, the fail break at 185, I guess, trapping people long, but then not really pulling back, that strengthens the bull case, if anything. So, I mean, I wouldn't excuse anybody if you had added again at 185. It was a loss on the short trade. And the reason I don't like waiting to $2 is, in this case, now you can start scalping in front of $2, and then you can add if $2 breaks. There's more flexibility when you have it a little bit lower in front of that level. Now, obviously, we're day trading here, so I'm going to get some offers out just to make sure they're not stink bids. I guess I don't know what you call it when you throw offers out higher. When you put bids out lower, they're stink bids. When you throw offers out higher, it needs a name. That's what I'll do in front of $2 on ARDX. If $2 breaks, I think you have another big level. I would anticipate 2 to 3 times as many shares on the offer at 2 as you would have seen at 85.
Yeah, okay, so let's go back to Snow, the stock. So earlier I noticed in the chat, Frank said, big spread on Snow. Yeah, spread is at this point 50 cents. It's a huge spread. Sometimes it's like $1 and change. I am in the money. I am looking to get out. I'm not going to tell you where though, because look at the level 2. It's too thin. I can't put that out there just yet until I get out. Once I get out, it'll show on execution, and at that point I'll let you guys know. But until I do get out, this is way too thin for me to put that out there. So we'll just wait, but I am looking to get out at least half of this soon to lock in some profit. It's in the money about $10 at the moment if I cross the bid, or if I cross to the offer and hit the offer. So for now, it is in the money, $10. I am looking to get out. When it happens, I'll let you guys know. Brendan?
All right, it is time, guys, for your daily dose of Justin, the marketing guy from Day Trade the World, sitting next to me once again, as per usual. Justin, an interesting day, as always, in all things tech. A few different angles we can kind of approach this on. You want to start off with an interesting story from Porsche. We were sitting here just kind of discussing, similarities to Tesla in the sense of some work they're doing when it comes to the at-home and smart home type applications.
Right. So the renewable energy side of this, I guess of the EV industry really, I think is growing like just at leaps and bounds. Porsche is investing in a company called 1,5, and what they do is they develop products for homeowners to live or to create more carbon neutral homes. So they're creating energy storage and charging infrastructure for vehicles, which I think is a very interesting kind of hint at where they're going, and also creating solar power panels. So very much, not just not just focused on creating charging infrastructure for EV, but also creating the entire, the entire carbon neutral experience for homeowners, which I think is not a typical investment for Porsche. They typically go for the tech play. Yeah. So this is, I think that they're starting to signal certainly that there's an entry into the EV space for them. Who knows when that's happening or when that's going to come, but certainly an interesting indication of where their heads are at.
Yeah, innovation side of things. I mean, it just kind of also, puts a exclamation point, I guess, on how well Tesla has kind of already ventured into those different markets and is doing, already quite well with them. So a natural progression possibly for Porsche. Speaking of Tesla, more satellites going up into space.
Definitely. Tesla, to the moon with their 27th Falcon 9 launch this year. And they also threw out 2 black sky Earth imaging satellites. So definitely doing a lot more of the Earth photography. That side of their business sells Earth imaging to corporations as well as military. Right. So certainly doing some work in that space. And this, I think, brings us up to just a little bit less than 1,700 operational operational Starlink satellites. So definitely interesting time for them. Seem to be doing well with them. And the Falcon 9 booster was successfully retrieved. So always nice to hear that everything goes well from top to tail. And certainly Elon pretty happy about that.
Elon's the type of guy, though, that I think actually enjoys watching it explode when it doesn't work so well. So yeah. The FTC will touch on NVIDIA as well, guys, here. The FTC yesterday coming out saying they're suing to block this ARM deal. I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall, I think.
Yeah, you can't have as large a corporation as NVIDIA try to make a large acquisition or a large merger with ARM without somebody raising their eyebrows. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think that this is almost a case of they could be biting off a little bit more than they can chew with this one. Yeah. I can't see how the FTC is going to allow this to go forward. Obviously, NVIDIA is saying, "Oh, this is for the good of the industry and good for consumers." Whether or not that's true or not, that remains to be seen. But this merger certainly would give them a lot of firepower to undermine some of the challengers that they're facing. So Qualcomm obviously having an issue with it. So
yeah, and it's worth noting, I think, given the price action that we've seen over the latter half of yesterday and then today, I think people kind of expected this.
Right. Nobody can be surprised that this is happening. I think that if you are surprised, come at it from under the rock and kind of start to kind of pay attention a little bit more, because there's it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I don't know if this is going to go forward. It just seems like it's too big. It seems like it's just too big of a merger.
Yeah. So. Join the conversation on Twitter, guys, at TraderTV Justin. Let him know what you would like to know a little more about, and we will discuss these and more topics coming up later this afternoon. Justin Kozach, the marketing guy from Day Trade the World, joining us as per usual, guys, with all things interesting in the land of tech.
Yeah, and all things interesting, this market's still getting hit again.
Yep.
Everyone's going to talk to futures in a second. I tried to update you guys because I saw that big volume spike on DT here, and I still had some, not many, but like I said, I was scalping most of it out. I still had 20% on my short position at that 685 break when it pushed up to VWAP, and come on, I'm only going short the stock today. So it goes up to VWAP, I get more shares in here right around that 7, actually got some 05s and 06s, scalp it down, hold on to a core position, short the pops, man. That's what I'm doing here on DT. Yes, and I'll say it a million times, no matter how good DT ends up being, it should have been Baba, it should have been Neo. There's no question about it. We even talked about that a little bit here, and I should have listened to myself. ARDX, which was that breakout trade, that 185, it did make that push, got to 190, got to 192. I had my offers out there, I guess. and it's starting to pull back in. It's still above that 83 level, still hasn't pulled back to 180, past 180, so the breakout is still on there. Maybe not as far as I was anticipating, not to $2 yet, but there's still room to run. I'm still in Longeveron. It's holding close enough to that high to cause some concern. The other short that is not causing any concerns is DWAC. Now, DWAC, it didn't halt. And look, the only reason I didn't get out here is because I kind of thought we were going to halt down, and then I'd hold through a halt. But it's actually held that, I guess it went into a potential volatility halt and then held the bid. And usually when it makes that kind of a bounce, you don't want to get caught in a reversal. So I got a trail at 42.50 on this thing because if it goes further, I want to expose myself to, I guess an even bigger winner here. But overall, when it does resist a trade halt to the downside, a lot of times you catch a bit of a bounce. It's been a good short. Obviously, it was a good short around that 46 in front of 47. Then when it took out that 44.50 level, which remember, that was from yesterday. We talked about 44.50 yesterday on DWAC and then come right back in and play the same level short. It then holds well at that same price. There is your flush. We'll see what happens here. I can't do worse than a couple of bucks on this trade at this point, but it's still just held that volatility halt to the downside, which I anticipated was going to happen. Clearly, it did not.
All right, I'm gonna do one thing, Neil. I'm just gonna.
Is yours not working?
No, we don't have it set up.
Oh, my bad.
I'm gonna do that right there for Snow. First target is out.
Damn.
There you go, $14 winner on Snow. I got out the average around 331, roughly is where I was, and we're already back to 334. So first target right at the bottom. I think we bottomed out at 330.69. There's your sniper shot for me for that trade, and I'm just going to manage out the rest. Again, once I get out the rest of it, I'll tell you guys where. Again, it's too thin for me to put those prices out there. Sometimes, a lot of the times we talk about stocks, and they have the volume to support it. Snow's got such a massive spread that it's not a good idea. It's not a smart idea to put that kind of information, especially when everyone can see it. So let's just be smart about this. So there you go, 14 bucks on the first snow exit, and then I'll just manage out the rest. I am looking to potentially get into MRVL. I think I'm going to go ahead and get a short on MRVL very soon because I think at this point it doesn't look like we can bounce off of 82. Futures, man, I'm trying to get, my offer is sitting there, but it's like 10 points away. I'm going to start getting some shorts on futures, Nora, just south of 40. That's where I was looking. We're definitely going to be waiting there and see if we can actually grab a trade on the futures as well. For now, though, Snow is the only trade I've got, and I'm just going to ride this one out. We got Brendan. Brendan with our guest of the day.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, Veggie joining us today, the world's largest digital marketplace for vegan products on the food side of things. Director and CEO Corey Zellickson with us to talk a little bit about a very interesting approach to this space. And I guess it's kind of safe to say, Corey, maybe the first of its kind, and comparable to the Amazons of the retail world, but in the vegan space. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show. Veggie is a two-sided marketplace that connects consumers with brands and connects brands with access to a national audience of consumers for plant-based and sustainable living products. So we work with hundreds of brands. We offer over 3,000 products available through the platform today at shopveggie.com. We also work with brands who are onboarding to the site, small local brands and national brands looking to gain exposure, and we offer marketing packages and services to them as well that include paid targeted digital advertising that drives traffic to their landing pages on our website. We also develop user-generated content, social media influencer networks, email marketing campaigns, and on-site merchandising to help brands gain access and exposure to our audience. We built out a large-scale distribution network with multiple distribution centers across the country. We're working on launching same-day delivery within key metropolitan areas as well.
So this is lots of different angles we can approach this from, but I want to start off specifically on the tech side of things and talk a little bit about how this maybe stands out from the crowd here, because this is a ever-growing space with lots of different options. Veggie available on both sides of the border here in Canada and in the U.S. What do consumers, I guess, best need to know about, what to find on Veggie?
So we carry a full line of plant-based and sustainable products from product categories ranging from plant-based groceries to personal care to vitamins and supplements, sports nutrition, and even vegan wines. The way that we've built out the platform is that we have 3 key sort of distribution channels. We have direct vendor listings. So, if you had your own brand of CPG products that falls within sustainability or plant-based products, you can come to our website, sign up, onboard, and then offer your products across the platform. We also have a platform called Veggie Express, which basically is what we took as a very curated offering of the most popular products that we carry on the platform. Essentially, very similar to Amazon Prime. This is inventory that we buy in a warehouse within our own distribution centers to allow faster delivery times to our consumers. The third category is the Fulfilled by Veggie services, where we have brands that actually want to join the Veggie Express platform, and they provide consignment inventory to Veggie through our distribution network, allowing them to participate and have their products listed with the most popular items that are available on the website today. So that's sort of the way that our logistics and distribution network is built out. And the goal is to provide brands with access to consumers and then connect consumers with the brands they know and love, and also introduce them to new and innovative products that are coming to the market.
And we saw a few of those now there on the website. I have to say, Corey, I had a chance to get on the site a couple of days ago and have a look at how things work and some of the products that are available, and it's very impressive. Tell us, maybe some names that people might be familiar with that they can find on Veggie.
So I think one key differentiator for Veggie is that we do carry all of the top brands that you know and love. You'll have, your Beyond Meat and Gardein and Tofurkey and all of those brands on the website. But we have a lot of great niche brands as well and boutique brands. And what's really interesting is that while, you may have certain local brands available in California, nobody's ever heard of those in New York. So we're allowing and bringing these brands together where they can start to gain access into new markets across the platform. So we have, a lot of really unique and innovative companies in the space. One key category which has gained a lot of traction recently is plant-based seafood. So we have a really particularly great offering of plant-based seafood products, including shrimp, scallops, fillets as well. And so by having the ability to look at consumer traffic and user data through the website, we can understand really well which product categories are trending and which brands are gaining traction through the platform.
Currently listed as VEJI on the CSE here in Toronto. 2 questions for you, Corey. Any plans in the future on a U.S. listing possibly to come? And also, what else can the viewers expect from Veggie as we head into the new year?
So yeah, really great question. We definitely are planning on working through an OTC listing to gain access to U.S. markets. We recently announced the launch or planned launch of a new warehouse in Toronto that's going to allow us to service the entire GTA area with same-day delivery. That also centralizes our Canadian distribution between East and West Coast, which brings down costs and also will lower our overall carbon footprint. We also today announced a planned launch for a new facility in San Diego. So getting to same-day delivery in key metropolitan areas is really important for us as we continue to regionalize distribution, provide better services. We're going to be branching out into new product categories as well. We're very interested in launching sustainable fashion in the new year and expanding the offering of products in the platform.
Exciting time to be in this space. Corey Zellickson is Director and CEO of Veggie. We appreciate your time and look forward to an update in the future.
Thanks so much.
Have a great day. There we go, guys. That's Veggie. Very, very interesting idea and a great concept for the website.
Oh, you missed one point there, Brendan. And a winning ticker, VEJI. Look, at the end of the day, it's to me, it's like the lowest hanging fruit to get yourself an awesome ticker. And as a trader, we always appreciate it. So I just like it. I think it's a fun one for consideration. We only have about less than 10 minutes to go. So a couple of things. One, I want to congratulate Arun on that snow trade. I think it should be trade of the day when we review trades. We'll see if we can coax Arun into doing it at the big screen. I don't know if we can. He's already shaking his head at me. Fine. Look, no one wants to see me go over like DWAC. I can go over some bottom picks that stunk like Square today or an Upstart. People have asked about Zillow a couple of times, and I don't really see too much of a trade there on that particular name. I kept going over it, and it's just like the range is kind of ugly. Not really seeing a heck of a lot. I'd love to be able to tell you I see something there. I just don't. But I want to go to also Longeveron. which we are in. It's starting to pull back, but it broke VWAP here, so that looks pretty good. And I want to get out in front of this 23 level if I can. So, first leg fine, right into this chop here, and then let's see if we can get a couple of bucks out in front of 230. It's as long as I would have loved it better if it held VWAP, but it's still. It gets close enough at that 24 that if it doesn't really fall any further, gets back above VWAP, probably chops me out here for like a $1 winner or $1.25 or so, that it could still give you a 26 break later on in the day. So keep that one on your radar. I could get trailed out of DWAC here. As a matter of fact, I just did get trailed out of DWAC at 42.50. So even that one, as good as it's been, and we can floss it off, starting to come back as the market's finding bottoms. So even the good shorts are starting to get a bit of a bid here. And that could apply to DD as well. Just going over some of the trades that we have on. It's managed to also put in a higher low right around this 665. And this is, like I keep saying over and over again, and I think it's worth saying, this is the most crowded trade today, which is shorting DD. It's worked for you all the way. It's just not falling the way that you might think based on the delisting headline because, hey, heck, it's easy to borrow here at Day Trade the World. I don't think for most of your brokers out there, you might not have any trouble shorting this one today. And if you're paying for it, you're probably not even paying a heck of a lot, which calls for a bit of an overextended trade. Someone just asked about Zoom. Not as bad as the fintech names here today, but this is the case in point that DocuSign getting crushed, Zoom being down. This move to the downside, this ain't about. You can call it about, I guess the new variant all you want, but this is about tapering, this is about the Fed, this is about rates, this is about valuations, and this is why these stocks are getting burned. Now, some of those fintech names that are getting beat down, those had high valuations too, right? And at the end of the day, those are getting hurt. And today, and the ones with cash flow, the ones that your inflation protection against, which is your banks and which is your consumer staples, which are good. Those kind of cyclical names have been good today, and that's what you look for. So Zoom was just getting caught up in it. If this was a pure thing about COVID, maybe it would be catching a bit of a bid. I'm trying to go back far enough on there we go. Finally, it loads up. Go back far enough on the daily chart to show you what's starting to come into play. I think we mentioned this level a couple of days ago. This was a previous high going all the way back to early 2020 on its breakout. This was 182, and then the big break started here, really, at that 182 level, clustering up, bouncing off the 50 period, and starting to go parabolic at 182. This is around where your low is today, so if it's going to make a bottom, it needs to be here for this action, and the futures not cooperating with that, Arun. So I know Snowflake was a monster trade. I think it was a good one. Yeah. I tried once. I'll try to coax him over lunchtime during Memes and Movers to do a trade of the day for you guys. I think it would be fun, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's just you. So 331, it was 331-ish was the average exit on the first one, and I actually got out of the second half of the position as well as we bounced north of 338 and change. So I'm fully out of snow. We're going to walk away. We'll move on to our next trade, which was Marvell. Remember, I've been trying to get into Marvell as long as we could see enough to justify the short below 82. Now it's kind of flirting with it. Well, it broke 81, bounced back up to above 81. I'm going to leave the offer there, see if I can't get a fill just underneath 82. I'm still okay with this trade. As long as we trade like this, the trade should be fine. So 82 there with the 84 stop. So it's a $2 risk on that trade. Futures order is still left there south of 40. And again, I'm okay. If I get filled and it keeps going, I'm going to plan for averaging in at this point. So we'll see how this goes, but the order is there sitting north of 40. Keep in mind, though, it's also about 35 minutes from the European close, which tends to bring some extra volatility because, well, people are closing out their aggressive weeks in Europe, and sometimes that translates into volatility in North America, given that some stocks are dual listed. And the U.S. markets also take that into consideration as well. So that's one trade I've got there. Another one that I want to talk about is Boeing. As we close up shop very soon, just keep an eye on Boeing, guys. I gave you guys 196 as the area before we even started the day. It's still flirting with this, but the idea for the short could still be on the table south of 196. Remember, if we break 196, the short would be there. Let me actually pull this up here. 196 break would open up a short. It all depends on how it goes. So right now, given the way it's trading, I'm not sure what the stop is. But if it kind of goes sideways for a bit and then breaks down, then I think you could use about 199, even 200. But be prepared for about $3 to $4 in risk on BA. But the downside's there, though. I think you can get to at least 193. So keep an eye on that for another trade. We'll be back at 2 p.m. We'll see if I actually end up taking that trade. Futures, we'll wait on that one as well. And I don't really have anything. I think for me, on my screen, I see this. I only have, given all the issues I've had today regarding the computer, I have 2 trades that I made today, Snow and BABA. Obviously, you saw how Snow worked out. BABA, I got out before the open because I didn't want to take the risk of getting run over at the open, because sometimes what you see is there's a massive down move in stocks. So what happens at the open, there's a quick flush to the upside, which gets reversed, and then it ends up going to the downside. So I wanted to avoid that after I saw how it was trading around 119. Obviously, that was a miss because BABA, where is BABA trading at now? BABA is at 114 after dipping all the way down to 108.70. So, I mean, that's a missed trade there. You see the trade here, the pink arrow with the green arrow. That's the exit before we took off to the downside. But again, that's sometimes you miss them, and you just kind of have to take the hit, take the missed opportunity as it is, because it makes perfect sense as to why you would do that, right? Sometimes, obviously, there's stupid decisions made, but in this case, I still think the decision was proper. I'm just a little salty about the fact it still went. Sometimes you want to break the rules a little bit. Don't do that. More often than not, breaking the rules of your trading system do not work out in your favor, even though you may have this one-off winner to kind of justify doing it again.
The line I love to use is the market will gladly reward you for making mistakes, and all it will do is all it's going to do is make you make that mistake again, because if you get paid off for making a mistake, you're going to make that mistake over and over again until it finally burns you, and it'll burn you for more. But to that patience point, right? Like, was I patient on Square with the dip buy? Absolutely not. The way the market was falling, and the other mistake, like during the interview, I was talking to Arun here, one of the things I said quickly was, I should have looked at what was going on overall in fintech when looking for a dip buy in Square. And if I had done that, it wouldn't have been as bad of a loss. I would have had a much, much tighter entry point to that 185 instead of losing more than I needed to. This is a great national day. We're going to go to Ms. V to find out. We are all one of these, but sometimes you want to make sure that you appreciate these, Ms. V.
Thank you, Neil, and hey guys, thank you for spending this Friday trading morning with us. If you joined us for the first time, please subscribe to this channel. Catch us live every day from 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. Eastern. And of course, don't forget to like this video. We have just 1,100 likes, and I believe we deserve way more likes. So guys, pump the like button, and happy National Bartender Day, everyone.
There you go. Make sure you appreciate your bartenders out there. They do a fantastic job giving you your bourbon Manhattans, which is the only way to actually have a Manhattan, or an old fashioned, which I love to have every now and then, or a Moscow Mule in honor of Miss V. So
or your waters when it's the end of the night and you got to get back home.
That is true. You should always make sure you end the day, or just always drink water in general. We know it's all about health. Hydration Nation, shout out for Sean. Sean is a much-deserved vacation, but you can't pull away from the markets. I already know he was looking at a few things here today. Arun doing an awesome job filling in again. I will do my best to try to convince him to do the trade of the day, and when we do a review in the afternoon, we'll see how it goes. I can't twist his arm because he'll beat me up, so that's just not going to happen. But obviously, you guys are headed over to Trader Pratt and Miss V. There is a lot moving, so a lot to talk about. This market is not shy for volatility today. So a lot for Trader Pratt and Ms. V to go to right now.
Welcome back to Memes and Movers. I'm your host, Trader Pratt. This is the beautiful Miss V. So fast. You run from there to here.
Yeah, I am fast. My type of sport, running in the studio.
Like Flash.
Yeah, guys, welcome back, everyone. Please be active on the chat as usual. Ask us anything, and we would really appreciate if you like this video. A lot of radness on the market today. Any great shorts for you, Prad?
Yeah, I got some good shorts today for sure. You know, finally Bear Pratt.
Yes, sir.
On the book today.
I wanna put this one.
Oh, Bear Pratt, there he is. There he is with those fancy